What if I told you that one of the most powerful civilizations in history, Carthage, had secrets so profound that they reshaped the ancient world, and yet most of us have never heard of them? Picture this, a city so advanced, its innovations in trade, warfare, and culture rivaled even the mighty Roman Empire. But here's the twist: many of these groundbreaking practices have been lost to time, buried under layers of history. Today, we're peeling back those layers to uncover 50 forgotten practices of Carthage that not only changed the course of history, but continue to influence our world in ways you'd never expect. From their revolutionary shipbuilding techniques to their mysterious religious rituals, these practices reveal a civilization far ahead of its time. So, if you're ready to dive into the hidden world of Carthage and discover how their forgotten secrets shaped the ancient world and beyond, stay with us. By the end of this video, you'll see history in a whole new light. Let's begin. Now, let's set sail into the first of these forgotten practices, the Carthaginian Navy's secret shipbuilding techniques. Carthage wasn't just a maritime power, it was a master of the seas, and its ships were the backbone of its empire. What made their vessels so extraordinary? It all started with their choice of materials. Carthaginian shipbuilders relied on specific types of wood, like cedar and cypress, which were not only durable but also resistant to rot and pests. These woods were carefully selected from forests across their empire, ensuring their ships could withstand the harsh conditions of the Mediterranean. But it wasn't just about the wood. The Carthaginians were pioneers in waterproofing techniques. They used a combination of tar and resin to seal their ships, creating a barrier that kept water out and extended the lifespan of their vessels. This innovation allowed their navy to dominate the seas for centuries, outlasting rivals who struggled with leaks and decay. Perhaps the most groundbreaking aspect of Carthaginian shipbuilding was their use of modular designs. Instead of constructing ships as single, unchangeable units, they built them in sections that could be easily replaced or repaired. This meant that if a ship was damaged in battle or by a storm, repairs could be made quickly, often while still at sea. This modular approach gave Carthage a significant strategic advantage, allowing their fleet to stay operational even in the most challenging conditions. These shipbuilding techniques didn't just make Carthage a maritime superpower, they set a standard that influenced naval engineering for generations. Even the Romans, who eventually conquered Carthage, adopted and adapted many of these methods for their own fleets. So, the next time you think about the ancient world's greatest innovations, remember the Carthaginian shipbuilders, whose ingenuity not only shaped their empire, but also left a lasting legacy on the history of naval warfare. And with that, let's move on to the next practice, the sacred groves of Carthage, where religion and nature intertwined in ways that still fascinate us today. Now, let's step into the lush, mystical world of Carthage's sacred groves, a practice that beautifully blended spirituality, nature, and innovation. These groves weren't just patches of forest, they were sanctuaries deeply woven into the religious and cultural fabric of Carthaginian society. To the Carthaginians, these groves were sacred spaces, believed to be the dwelling places of their gods and spirits. They were places of worship, reflection, and connection to the divine, where rituals and ceremonies were conducted to honor the gods and seek their favor. One of the most fascinating aspects of these sacred groves was their role in religious rituals. The Carthaginians believed that the gods communicated through nature, and the groves served as a bridge between the earthly and the divine. Priests and worshippers would gather here to perform sacrifices, offer prayers, and conduct ceremonies that were central to their spiritual life. These rituals weren't just symbolic, they were deeply practical, often tied to agricultural cycles. For example, ceremonies were held to bless the planting and harvesting seasons, ensuring the fertility of the land and the prosperity of the people. But the sacred groves were more than just spiritual hubs, they were also centers of environmental stewardship. The Carthaginians understood the importance of preserving these natural spaces, and their reverence for the groves led to some of the earliest forms of environmental conservation. Cutting down trees or disturbing the groves was strictly forbidden, and this protection helped maintain the ecological balance of the region. These practices not only preserved the groves but also ensured that the surrounding lands remained fertile and productive. The influence of the sacred groves extended beyond religion and ecology. They also shaped Carthage's agricultural practices. The groves were often located near farmland, and their preservation helped regulate water sources, prevent soil erosion, and maintain biodiversity. This harmony between agriculture and nature allowed Carthage to thrive as an agricultural powerhouse, producing abundant crops that fed its people and fueled its trade networks. In many ways, the sacred groves of Carthage were a testament to the civilization's deep respect for the natural world. They remind us that the Carthaginians weren't just conquerors and traders. They were also stewards of the land, whose practices laid the groundwork for sustainable living long before the concept became a modern ideal. As we leave the tranquility of the groves behind, let's turn our attention to the next practice, the vast and intricate trade network that connected Carthage to the far corners of the ancient world. Now, let's set sail into the bustling world of Carthage's trade network, a sprawling web of commerce that stretched across the Mediterranean and beyond. Carthage wasn't just a city, it was a trading empire, and its ability to connect distant cultures and economies was nothing short of revolutionary. At the heart of this network was a system so advanced that it laid the groundwork for modern trade practices. The Carthaginians were master navigators and merchants, establishing trade routes that reached as far as the British Isles to the north, the coasts of West Africa to the south, and the eastern Mediterranean, including Egypt and Greece. These routes weren't just pathways for goods, they were lifelines that carried everything from precious metals and textiles to exotic spices and grains. But what truly set Carthage apart was its ability to standardize trade. The Carthaginians introduced uniform weights and measures, ensuring consistency and fairness in transactions. This innovation not only streamlined commerce but also built trust among trading partners, making Carthage a reliable hub for merchants from diverse cultures. One of the most remarkable aspects of this trade network was its ability to foster cultural exchange. As goods flowed through Carthage, so did ideas, technologies, and traditions. For example, Carthaginian merchants brought back knowledge of advanced agricultural techniques from Egypt, which they then adapted to improve their own farming practices. Similarly, their interactions with Greek traders introduced new artistic styles and architectural innovations that enriched Carthaginian culture. This exchange wasn't one-sided. Carthage also exported its own innovations, such as its famed purple dye, made from the murex shellfish, which became a symbol of wealth and status across the ancient world. The economic impact of this trade network was immense. Carthage's ability to control key trade routes allowed it to amass wealth and resources, which in turn fueled its military and political power. The city's ports were always bustling, with ships arriving and departing daily, laden with goods from every corner of the known world. This constant flow of trade not only enriched Carthage but also created a ripple effect, boosting the economies of the regions it connected. But the Carthaginian trade network wasn't just about wealth, it was about connection. By linking distant cultures, Carthage played a pivotal role in shaping the ancient world. Its trade routes became conduits for diplomacy, alliances, and even conflict as rival powers sought to control these lucrative pathways. Yet, through it all, Carthage remained a central player. Its influence felt far beyond its borders. As we leave the bustling ports and trade routes behind, let's turn our attention to another groundbreaking practice, the use of war elephants, a tactic that struck fear into the hearts of Carthage's enemies and changed the face of ancient warfare. Now, let's step onto the battlefield and uncover one of Carthage's most awe-inspiring military innovations, the use of war elephants. These colossal creatures were not just symbols of power, they were strategic weapons that reshaped the dynamics of ancient warfare. Imagine the sight of these towering beasts charging toward enemy lines, their sheer size and strength striking terror into the hearts of even the most seasoned soldiers. For Carthage, war elephants were more than just tools of war, they were game changers. The Carthaginians didn't just use any elephants, they carefully selected and trained North African forest elephants, which were slightly smaller than their Asian counterparts but still formidable. Training these massive animals was no small feat. Carthaginian handlers, known as mahouts, spent years building trust with the elephants, teaching them to respond to commands and endure the chaos of battle. The elephants were outfitted with protective armor and often carried archers or spearmen in howdahs, wooden towers strapped to their backs. This combination of brute force and ranged attack made them a deadly force on the battlefield. But the psychological impact of war elephants was perhaps their greatest strength. The mere presence of these creatures could cause enemy troops to panic and break formation. Horses unused to the sight and smell of elephants would often bolt, leaving cavalry units in disarray. This chaos gave Carthaginian forces a significant advantage, allowing them to exploit weaknesses in their enemies' defenses. The fear inspired by war elephants was so profound that even the mention of them could demoralize opposing armies before a battle began. However, deploying war elephants came with its own set of challenges. Transporting these massive animals across the Mediterranean was a logistical nightmare. Carthage had to construct specially designed ships capable of carrying elephants, complete with reinforced decks and ramps for loading and unloading. The journey itself was perilous, as elephants could become agitated or injured during the voyage. Once on land, the elephants required vast amounts of food and water, adding another layer of complexity to military campaigns. Despite these challenges, Carthage's ability to mobilize and deploy war elephants demonstrated their ingenuity and resourcefulness. The use of war elephants reached its peak under the command of the legendary General Hannibal during the Second Punic War. Hannibal's daring crossing of the Alps with his army and his elephants remains one of the most audacious military maneuvers in history. Though many of the elephants did not survive the harsh conditions, their presence during key battles left an indelible mark on the conflict and cemented their place in military lore. As we move from the battlefield to the realm of communication, let's explore another groundbreaking Carthaginian innovation, the development of their unique alphabet, a system that not only facilitated trade and governance but also influenced cultures far beyond their borders. Now, let's shift our focus from the thundering chaos of the battlefield to the quieter, yet equally transformative world of written communication. The Carthaginians were not only masters of war and trade but also pioneers in developing a unique alphabet that played a crucial role in their empire's success. This script, known as the Punic alphabet, was more than just a tool for writing. It was a cornerstone of Carthaginian culture, governance, and commerce. The Carthaginian alphabet evolved from the Phoenician script, which was one of the earliest known writing systems. However, the Carthaginians adapted and refined it to better suit their needs, creating a distinct version that reflected their identity. This alphabet consisted of 22 characters, each representing a consonant, making it simpler and more efficient than many other writing systems of the time. Unlike the complex hieroglyphs of Egypt or the cuneiform of Mesopotamia, the Punic alphabet was accessible and easy to learn, enabling widespread literacy among Carthaginian citizens. One of the most remarkable aspects of the Carthaginian alphabet was its role in facilitating communication across their vast empire. From the bustling markets of Carthage to the distant outposts along the Mediterranean coast, this script allowed merchants, officials, and soldiers to exchange information quickly and accurately. Standardized weights, measures, and trade agreements were recorded using this alphabet, ensuring consistency and trust in commercial transactions. It also played a vital role in governance, as laws, treaties, and administrative records were written in a language that could be understood across diverse regions. The influence of the Carthaginian alphabet extended far beyond their borders. As Carthage expanded its trade networks, the script spread to neighboring cultures, including the Berbers and Numidians in North Africa. Even after the fall of Carthage, elements of their alphabet survived and influenced later writing systems, including the Latin script used by the Romans. This legacy underscores the enduring impact of Carthaginian innovation on the development of written communication in the ancient world. But the Carthaginian alphabet was more than just a practical tool, it was also a symbol of cultural identity. Inscriptions found on monuments, coins, and everyday objects reveal a society that valued literacy and self-expression. These writings provide us with glimpses into the lives, beliefs, and aspirations of the Carthaginian people, offering a window into a civilization that thrived on both practicality and creativity. As we move from the written word to the realm of ritual and belief, let's explore one of the most controversial practices of Carthage, child sacrifice, and uncover the complex religious and cultural context behind this enigmatic tradition. Turning now to a practice that has long fascinated and horrified historians alike, we delve into the enigmatic and deeply controversial tradition of child sacrifice in Carthage. This ritual, often misunderstood and sensationalized, offers a window into the complex religious and cultural fabric of Carthaginian society. To truly grasp its significance, we must first understand the context in which it existed. Child sacrifice in Carthage was deeply rooted in religious belief. The Carthaginians worshipped a pantheon of deities, with Baal Hammon and Tanit being among the most revered. These gods were believed to hold immense power over life, death, and prosperity. To appease them and ensure the well-being of the community, the Carthaginians practiced rituals that included offerings of their most precious possessions, their children. This act was not one of cruelty as it might appear to modern eyes, but rather a profound expression of faith and devotion. It was believed that such sacrifices would secure divine favor, protect the city from disasters, and ensure victory in war. Archaeological evidence provides crucial insights into this practice. Excavations at Carthage have uncovered sacred sites known as tophets, which served as burial grounds for the remains of infants and young children. These sites often contained urns filled with cremated remains, accompanied by inscriptions dedicating the offerings to Baal Hammon or Tanit. While some scholars initially interpreted these findings as evidence of widespread child sacrifice, others have suggested alternative explanations, such as high infant mortality rates or the burial of stillborn children. However, the presence of dedicatory inscriptions and the ritualistic nature of the sites strongly support the theory that child sacrifice was indeed a practiced tradition. The impact of this practice on perceptions of Carthaginian society cannot be overstated. Ancient Roman and Greek writers, often hostile to Carthage, used accounts of child sacrifice to portray the Carthaginians as barbaric and uncivilized. These narratives were amplified in later centuries, shaping a distorted image of Carthage that persists to this day. Yet, it is essential to approach these accounts with caution, recognizing the biases of the sources and the complexity of the practice itself. For the Carthaginians, child sacrifice was not an act of savagery but a sacred duty, deeply intertwined with their worldview and spiritual beliefs. As we reflect on this practice, it challenges us to consider the ways in which cultural and religious practices can be misunderstood across time and space. The Carthaginians, like many ancient civilizations, lived in a world where the boundaries between the divine and the mortal were fluid, and where acts of devotion often required immense personal sacrifice. By examining this practice through a lens of empathy and historical context, we gain a deeper understanding of Carthaginian society and the values that shaped it. From the solemnity of religious rituals, we now turn to a practice that reflects Carthage's ingenuity in another realm. the introduction of coinage and its transformative impact on trade and economy. Shifting our focus from the spiritual to the practical, we now explore a practice that revolutionized Carthage's economy and trade networks: the introduction of coinage. This innovation not only transformed how Carthage conducted business, but also left a lasting legacy on the ancient Mediterranean world. The Carthaginian coinage system emerged as a response to the growing complexity of their trade empire. Before the widespread use of coins, trade relied heavily on barter systems, which, while functional, were cumbersome and inefficient for large-scale commerce. Recognizing the need for a more streamlined method, Carthage began minting its own coins around the 5th century BCE. These coins, typically made of silver or bronze, featured intricate designs that reflected Carthage's cultural and religious identity. Common motifs included the goddess Tanit, the palm tree, a symbol of prosperity, and the horse, representing power and mobility. The introduction of coinage had a profound economic impact. For one, it standardized trade by providing a universally accepted medium of exchange. Merchants no longer had to negotiate the value of goods in terms of other goods. Instead, they could rely on the consistent value of Carthaginian coin. This standardization facilitated smoother transactions, reduced disputes, and enabled Carthage to expand its trade networks even further. From the bustling markets of North Africa to the distant ports of the Western Mediterranean, Carthaginian coins became a trusted currency. Moreover, the coinage system allowed Carthage to exert greater control over its economy. By regulating the production and distribution of coins, the Carthaginian government could influence trade flows, stabilize prices, and fund military campaigns. The coins also served as a tool of propaganda, with their designs reinforcing Carthage's cultural identity and political authority. In this way, the coinage system was not just an economic innovation, but also a means of projecting power and unity across their vast territories. The influence of Carthaginian coinage extended beyond their borders. As Carthage traded with neighboring cultures, their coins circulated widely, introducing new regions to the concept of standardized currency. This exchange of ideas and practices laid the groundwork for future economic systems in the Mediterranean, including those of the Roman Empire. Even after Carthage's decline, the legacy of their coinage endured, shaping the development of trade and commerce for centuries to come. As we reflect on the Carthaginian coinage system, it becomes clear that this practice was more than just a financial tool. It was a cornerstone of their economic and cultural identity. By standardizing trade and fostering economic stability, Carthage solidified its position as a dominant power in the ancient world. And with this foundation in place, we now turn to another remarkable innovation that further cemented Carthage's reputation as a leader in agricultural practices. Moving from the bustling markets fueled by Carthaginian coinage, we now step into the fertile fields that sustained their empire. Carthage's agricultural innovations were nothing short of revolutionary, transforming the arid landscapes of North Africa into some of the most productive farmland in the ancient world. These advancements not only fed their growing population, but also positioned Carthage as a key supplier of grain and other staples to the Mediterranean region. At the heart of Carthage's agricultural success was their mastery of crop rotation. Unlike many of their contemporaries, who often exhausted their soil by repeatedly planting the same crops, Carthaginian farmers developed a system of alternating crops to maintain soil fertility. By rotating cereals like wheat and barley with legumes such as lentils and chickpeas, they ensured that the soil remained rich in nutrients. This practice not only boosted yields but also reduced the need for fallow periods, allowing for more consistent and abundant harvest. Equally impressive were their irrigation systems, which showcased Carthage's ingenuity in harnessing water resources. In a region where rainfall was scarce and unpredictable, Carthaginian engineers designed intricate networks of canals, reservoirs, and aqueducts to bring water to their fields. These systems allowed them to cultivate crops year-round, even during dry seasons. One notable example is the use of canals, underground channels that tapped into groundwater and transported it over long distances. This technology, borrowed from earlier civilizations, was refined and expanded by Carthage to maximize efficiency. The Carthaginians also excelled in the cultivation of cash crops, particularly olives and grapes. Olive oil and wine became major exports traded across the Mediterranean and beyond. To support these industries, they developed advanced techniques for pruning, grafting, and pest control, ensuring high-quality produce. Their expertise in viticulture and oliculture not only enriched their economy but also influenced agricultural practices in neighboring regions. Another key innovation was their use of terracing on hilly terrain. By creating stepped fields, Carthaginian farmers prevented soil erosion and made use of land that would otherwise have been unsuitable for agriculture. This method, combined with their irrigation systems, allowed them to cultivate a wide variety of crops, from grains and vegetables to fruits and spices. The impact of Carthage's agricultural innovations extended far beyond their borders. Their surplus grain fed cities across the Mediterranean, while their techniques inspired other civilizations to adopt similar practices. Even after Carthage's fall, their agricultural legacy lived on, influencing Roman farming methods and contributing to the agricultural knowledge of the ancient world. As we marvel at the ingenuity of Carthaginian farmers, it's clear that their innovations were not just about survival, they were about thriving. By turning challenging landscapes into fertile fields, Carthage secured its place as a breadbasket of the ancient world. And with this foundation of abundance, we now turn to another remarkable aspect of Carthaginian society, the unique role of women in shaping their culture and economy. Shifting our focus from the fertile fields of Carthage, we now turn to a fascinating aspect of their society that set them apart from many of their contemporaries, the remarkable role of women. In Carthage, women enjoyed a level of freedom and influence that was uncommon in the ancient world, playing vital roles in trade, religion, and even politics. This unique status not only shaped Carthaginian culture but also highlighted the progressive nature of their society. One of the most striking examples of women's prominence in Carthage was their active participation in trade. Unlike in many other ancient civilizations where women were often confined to domestic roles, Carthaginian women were known to own and manage businesses. They traded goods such as textiles, pottery, and even luxury items, contributing significantly to the economy. Some women even held positions of power within merchant guilds, negotiating deals and overseeing trade networks that stretched across the Mediterranean. This level of involvement in commerce was rare for the time and demonstrated the respect and autonomy afforded to women in Carthage. Religion was another sphere where Carthaginian women held considerable influence. They played key roles in religious ceremonies and rituals, often serving as priestesses in temples dedicated to deities like Tanit, the chief goddess of Carthage. These priestesses were not just ceremonial figures. They wielded real authority, overseeing sacred rites and interpreting divine will. Their involvement in religion extended beyond the temple, as women were also responsible for maintaining household shrines and ensuring the spiritual well-being of their families. This integration of women into religious life underscored their importance in both public and private spheres. In politics, while Carthage was not a fully egalitarian society, women still managed to exert influence in subtle yet significant ways. Though they did not hold formal political office, elite women often acted as advisors to male leaders, shaping policies and decisions behind the scenes. Their voices were particularly influential in matters of diplomacy and alliance building, where their connections and insights proved invaluable. This behind-the-scenes power allowed Carthaginian women to leave their mark on the political landscape, even if their contributions were not always visible. The status of Carthaginian women stood in stark contrast to that of women in other ancient societies. such as Greece or Rome, where their roles were far more restricted. In Carthage, women were not merely confined to the home, they were active participants in the economic, religious, and political life of their city. This progressive approach to gender roles not only enriched Carthaginian society, but also set a precedent that would influence later cultures. As we reflect on the unique position of women in Carthage, it's clear that their contributions were integral to the empire's success. From bustling marketplaces to sacred temples, Carthaginian women left an indelible mark on their society, challenging the norms of their time and paving the way for future generations. With this understanding of their vital role, we now turn to another cornerstone of Carthage's strength, the military reforms that made them a formidable power in the ancient world. Moving from the influential role of women in Carthage, we now delve into the military strategies that solidified Carthage as a dominant force in the ancient world. The Carthaginian military reforms were nothing short of revolutionary, transforming their army into a highly efficient and adaptable fighting machine. At the heart of these reforms was their innovative use of mercenaries, specialized units, and groundbreaking tactics that set them apart from their rivals. One of the most striking aspects of Carthage's military was their reliance on mercenaries. Unlike many other ancient powers that depended solely on citizen soldiers, Carthage recruited fighters from across the Mediterranean and beyond. These mercenaries brought diverse skills and experiences, from the nimble Balearic slingers to the fierce Numidian cavalry. This approach allowed Carthage to field a versatile army capable of adapting to different battle conditions. However, managing such a diverse force required exceptional organizational skills, and Carthage excelled in this regard, ensuring that their mercenaries were well-trained, well-paid, and fiercely loyal. In addition to mercenaries, Carthage developed specialized units that played critical roles in their military campaigns. Among these were the famed war elephants, which we've touched on earlier, but equally important were their light infantry and naval forces. The Carthaginian navy, for instance, was a marvel of engineering and strategy, dominating the seas and securing vital trade routes. On land, their light infantry units, often composed of swift-moving skirmishers, could harass and weaken enemy formations before the main force engaged. This combination of specialized units created a balanced and formidable military structure. But what truly set Carthage apart was their innovative tactics. One of their most effective strategies was the use of encirclement, famously employed by Hannibal during the Second Punic War. By surrounding and trapping enemy forces, Carthage could neutralize even larger armies. They also excelled in psychological warfare, using their war elephants and unexpected maneuvers to instill fear and confusion in their opponents. These tactics required not only strategic genius but also precise coordination among their diverse forces, showcasing the effectiveness of their military reforms. The success of Carthage's military reforms was evident in their ability to challenge and even defeat some of the most powerful empires of their time, including Rome. Their adaptability, combined with their willingness to embrace new ideas and integrate foreign expertise, made them a force to be reckoned with. As we explore these reforms, it's clear that Carthage's military prowess was not just a product of strength but of ingenuity and strategic vision. With this understanding of Carthage's military innovations, we now turn our attention to another pillar of their society, the remarkable urban planning that shaped their cities into models of efficiency and grandeur. Shifting our focus from the battlefield to the heart of Carthage itself, we now explore the remarkable urban planning that transformed their cities into marvels of efficiency and grandeur. The Carthaginians were not only masters of war but also pioneers in creating cities that were both functional and awe-inspiring. Their urban design reflected a deep understanding of organization, public welfare, and long-term sustainability, setting a standard that influenced civilizations for centuries. At the core of Carthaginian urban planning was the use of grid systems. Unlike the haphazard layouts of many ancient cities, Carthage streets were meticulously arranged in a grid pattern, ensuring easy navigation and efficient land use. This systematic approach allowed for the orderly expansion of the city as its population grew, while also facilitating trade and communication. Major thoroughfares connected key areas such as markets, temples, and administrative centers, creating a seamless flow of movement throughout the city. Public spaces played a vital role in Carthaginian urban life. Central plazas and open squares served as gathering points for citizens, hosting everything from political assemblies to cultural festivals. These spaces were not only functional but also symbolic, reflecting the city's commitment to community and civic pride. Temples and religious sites were often integrated into these public areas, blending the spiritual and social aspects of daily life. The Carthaginians understood that a well-designed city was more than just buildings. It was a living, breathing entity that fostered connection and belonging. Perhaps most impressive was Carthage's advanced infrastructure, which rivaled that of any ancient civilization. Aqueducts brought fresh water from distant sources, ensuring a reliable supply for drinking, bathing, and irrigation. These engineering feats were complemented by an extensive network of underground sewers, which carried waste away from the city and maintained public hygiene. Such innovations were not only practical but also demonstrated the Carthaginians' foresight in addressing the challenges of urban living. Their ability to balance functionality with aesthetics set a benchmark for urban development. The Carthaginians also prioritized the integration of nature into their cities. Gardens, orchards, and shaded walkways were common features, providing residents with green spaces to relax and recharge. This emphasis on harmony between the built environment and the natural world was ahead of its time, reflecting a holistic approach to urban design. It's no wonder that Carthage became a model for other cities in the ancient Mediterranean, inspiring admiration and imitation. As we reflect on Carthage's urban planning, it's clear that their cities were more than just places to live. They were expressions of a sophisticated and forward-thinking society. From their grid systems to their public spaces and infrastructure, the Carthaginians demonstrated a mastery of urban design that continues to captivate us today. With this understanding of their cities, we now turn to another fascinating aspect of Carthaginian innovation, their thriving glassmaking industry, which added both beauty and utility to their daily lives. Turning our attention from the grandeur of Carthage cities to the finer details of their craftsmanship, we now delve into the fascinating world of Carthaginian glassmaking. This industry was not only a testament to their technical skill, but also a reflection of their artistic vision and economic ingenuity. The Carthaginians were among the first to master the art of glass production in the ancient Mediterranean, creating objects that were both beautiful and functional, and their innovations left a lasting mark on the region's trade and culture. The production of glass in Carthage began with the careful selection of raw materials, primarily silica sand, which was abundant along the North African coast. Mixed with soda ash and lime, these ingredients were heated to extremely high temperatures in specially designed furnaces. The Carthaginians perfected the process of glass blowing, a technique that allowed them to shape molten glass into intricate forms. This method was revolutionary, enabling the creation of delicate vessels, decorative items, and even window panes with remarkable precision. Artistically, Carthaginian glass was renowned for its vibrant colors and intricate designs. Craftsmen used techniques like mosaic glass, where different colored glass rods were fused together to create patterns, and millefiori, which produced intricate floral or geometric designs. These pieces were not only functional but also served as status symbols, often adorning the homes of the elite or being offered as gifts to foreign dignitaries. The beauty of Carthaginian glass made it highly sought after, and it became a key export in their vast trade network. Beyond its aesthetic appeal, Carthaginian glass had practical applications that enhanced daily life. Glass containers were used to store perfumes, oils, and medicines, preserving their contents more effectively than clay or metal. The production of glass windows, though rare, marked an early step toward modern architectural techniques, allowing light to enter buildings while providing protection from the elements. These innovations demonstrated the Carthaginians' ability to blend artistry with utility, creating objects that served both decorative and functional purposes. The influence of Carthaginian glassmaking extended far beyond their borders. Through their extensive trade routes, Carthaginian glass reached distant markets, inspiring local artisans and spreading new techniques across the Mediterranean. The Romans, in particular, adopted and adapted many of these methods, incorporating them into their own glassmaking traditions. This cultural exchange highlights the interconnectedness of the ancient world and the pivotal role Carthage played in shaping its artistic and technological landscape. As we explore the legacy of Carthaginian glassmaking, it's clear that this industry was more than just a craft. It was a reflection of their creativity, ingenuity, and economic prowess. From the vibrant colors of their decorative pieces to the practical innovations that improved daily life, the Carthaginians left an indelible mark on the ancient world. With this glimpse into their glassmaking industry, we now turn to another intriguing aspect of Carthaginian culture, their unique approach to religious syncretism, which blended diverse spiritual traditions into a cohesive and dynamic belief system. Shifting our focus from the artistry of glassmaking to the spiritual realm, we now explore the fascinating practice of Carthaginian religious syncretism. This unique approach to faith allowed Carthage to weave together diverse religious traditions, creating a spiritual tapestry that was both inclusive and influential. At its core, religious syncretism in Carthage was about blending local beliefs with those of the many cultures they encountered through trade, conquest, and diplomacy. This fusion not only enriched their own religious practices, but also left a lasting impact on the spiritual landscape of the ancient Mediterranean. Central to Carthaginian religion was the worship of Baal Hammon, a powerful deity associated with fertility and the sky. Alongside him stood Tanit, a goddess often depicted as his consort, who became a symbol of protection and motherhood. These deities formed the backbone of Carthaginian spirituality, but their worship was far from static. As Carthage expanded its reach, it absorbed elements from the religions of the Phoenicians, Greeks, Egyptians, and even the indigenous Berber tribes. For example, the Carthaginians adopted the Egyptian practice of associating their gods with animals, leading to depictions of Baal Hammon with ram horns and Tanit with lunar symbols. One of the most striking examples of this blending was the incorporation of Greek deities into Carthaginian worship. The goddess Astarte, originally a Phoenician figure, became closely associated with the Greek Aphrodite, merging their attributes and rituals. Similarly, the Carthaginians adopted the Greek practice of building temples in the classical style, blending architectural influences with their own sacred spaces. This openness to foreign religious ideas was not just about assimilation. It was a deliberate strategy to foster unity among the diverse peoples within their empire and to strengthen diplomatic ties with neighboring cultures. The rituals and ceremonies of Carthage also reflected this syncretic approach. Sacrificial practices, for instance, combined elements from multiple traditions. While the Carthaginians were known for their controversial use of child sacrifice, a practice rooted in their Phoenician heritage, they also incorporated animal offerings and libations influenced by Greek and Egyptian customs. These rituals were often performed in grand temples adorned with symbols and imagery from various cultures, creating a visual representation of their blended spirituality. This religious flexibility had profound implications beyond Carthage's borders. As their trade networks expanded, so too did their spiritual influence. Carthaginian religious ideas spread to places like Sicily, Sardinia, and even parts of Spain, where local populations began to adopt and adapt their practices. The Romans, too, were influenced by Carthaginian syncretism, integrating elements of Baal Hammon and Tanit into their own pantheon under different names. This cultural exchange highlights how Carthage's religious openness not only shaped its own identity, but also contributed to the broader spiritual evolution of the ancient world. As we reflect on Carthaginian religious syncretism, it becomes clear that this practice was more than just a blending of beliefs. It was a testament to their ability to adapt, innovate, and connect with others. By embracing diversity in their spiritual life, the Carthaginians created a legacy that transcended their empire, influencing the religious practices of countless cultures. With this understanding of their syncretic approach, we now turn to another cornerstone of Carthaginian society, their sophisticated legal system, which emphasized fairness and commerce in ways that would leave a lasting mark on history. Now, let's step into the realm of justice and governance as we uncover the Carthaginian legal system, a framework that not only upheld fairness but also laid the groundwork for modern legal principles. At the heart of Carthage's legal codes was a commitment to balance and equity, ensuring that both citizens and traders could thrive in a society built on trust and order. Unlike many ancient civilizations where laws often favored the elite, Carthage's legal system was remarkably progressive, emphasizing fairness in both civil and commercial matters. One of the most striking features of Carthaginian law was its focus on commerce. As a trading superpower, Carthage needed a legal framework that could handle the complexities of international trade. Their laws standardized contracts, regulated disputes between merchants, and established clear guidelines for property ownership. This emphasis on commerce wasn't just about protecting wealth, it was about fostering trust. Traders from distant lands knew they could rely on Carthaginian courts to resolve conflicts fairly, which in turn strengthened Carthage's reputation as a hub of economic activity. But the Carthaginian legal system wasn't solely focused on commerce. It also addressed civil matters with a surprising degree of sophistication. Laws governing inheritance, marriage, and personal disputes were designed to protect the rights of individuals regardless of their social standing. For example, women in Carthage enjoyed more legal rights than in many contemporary societies, including the ability to own property and engage in business. This progressive approach reflected a broader commitment to fairness that set Carthage apart from its neighbors. Another key aspect of Carthaginian law was its adaptability. As Carthage expanded its influence, its legal system evolved to incorporate elements from the cultures it encountered. This openness to foreign ideas mirrored their approach to religion, creating a legal framework that was both flexible and inclusive. For instance, Carthage adopted certain Greek legal principles, such as the use of written laws and public trials, while also maintaining its own unique traditions. This blend of influences made their legal system both robust and adaptable, capable of addressing the needs of a diverse and growing empire. The legacy of Carthage's legal system extended far beyond its borders. When Rome eventually conquered Carthage, they didn't just destroy the city, they absorbed many of its legal ideas. Roman law, which would go on to shape much of Western legal tradition, was heavily influenced by Carthaginian principles. Concepts like standardized contracts, property rights, and the importance of fairness in commerce can all be traced back to Carthage. Even today, echoes of their legal innovations can be found in modern legal systems around the world. As we reflect on the Carthaginian legal system, it's clear that their commitment to fairness and commerce wasn't just about maintaining order, it was about building a society that valued trust, adaptability, and progress. Their legal codes were more than just rules, they were a reflection of Carthage's broader vision for a connected and equitable world. With this understanding of their legal legacy, we now turn to another fascinating aspect of Carthaginian society, their reliance on mercenaries, a practice that shaped their military strategy and left a lasting mark on history. Now, shifting our focus to the battlefield, we uncover one of Carthage's most defining military strategies, their reliance on mercenaries. Unlike many ancient powers that depended solely on citizen soldiers, Carthage built its military might by recruiting fighters from across the Mediterranean and beyond. This approach allowed them to field a diverse and formidable army, but it also came with its own set of challenges. Carthage's use of mercenaries was born out of necessity. As a trading empire, Carthage prioritized commerce over maintaining a large standing army. Instead of conscripting its own citizens, Carthage hired professional soldiers from regions like Iberia, Gaul, and North Africa. These mercenaries brought with them unique skills and fighting styles, from the swift cavalry of Numidia to the fierce infantry of the Balearic Islands. This diversity gave Carthage a tactical edge, allowing them to adapt to different battlefields and opponents. Recruiting mercenaries was no small feat. Carthage's vast trade network played a crucial role as merchants and diplomats negotiated contracts with foreign leaders and warlords. Payment often came in the form of gold, silver, or promises of plunder, making the arrangement mutually beneficial. However, this system also required careful management. Carthage had to ensure that its mercenaries remained loyal, a task made more difficult by the cultural and linguistic differences among the troops. Training these diverse forces was another challenge. While some mercenaries were seasoned warriors, others needed to be integrated into Carthage's military structure. Commanders like Hannibal Barca excelled at this, fostering unity and discipline among troops from vastly different backgrounds. Hannibal's ability to inspire loyalty in his mercenaries was legendary, and it played a key role in his famous campaigns against Rome. Yet, the reliance on mercenaries wasn't without risks. Integrating such a varied fighting force required constant effort to prevent conflicts and maintain morale. There were instances such as the mercenary war following the First Punic War, where unpaid mercenaries turned against Carthage, leading to a brutal and costly rebellion. These events highlighted the delicate balance Carthage had to strike between leveraging the strengths of mercenaries and managing their potential instability. Despite these challenges, Carthage's use of mercenaries left a lasting legacy. It demonstrated the effectiveness of a multicultural military force and influenced later empires, including Rome, which adopted similar strategies. The Carthaginian approach to mercenaries wasn't just about filling the ranks, it was about harnessing the unique strengths of diverse warriors to create a military machine that could rival any power of its time. As we move forward, we'll explore another facet of Carthage's strategic brilliance, their art of diplomacy, which allowed them to navigate the complex political landscape of the ancient world. Now, turning our attention from the battlefield to the negotiating table, we delve into the Carthaginian art of diplomacy. While Carthage was renowned for its military prowess, its ability to forge alliances and navigate the intricate political landscapes of the ancient world was equally remarkable. Diplomacy was not just a tool for Carthage, it was a cornerstone of their empire's survival and expansion. Carthage's diplomatic strategies were as diverse as the cultures they interacted with. At the heart of their approach was the ability to build and maintain alliances. Unlike many empires that relied solely on conquest, Carthage understood the value of cooperation. They formed strategic partnerships with neighboring states, such as the powerful Numidian kingdoms and the city-states of Sicily. These alliances provided Carthage with crucial resources, military support, and a buffer against rival powers like Rome. One of Carthage's most notable diplomatic achievements was its ability to negotiate treaties that secured its interests without resorting to war. The Treaty of Lutatius, which ended the First Punic War, is a prime example. While the terms were unfavorable, Carthage's diplomats managed to secure a peace that allowed the empire to recover and rebuild. This ability to turn even defeat into an opportunity for future strength highlights the sophistication of Carthaginian diplomacy. Carthage's diplomats were skilled at navigating the complex web of Mediterranean politics. They understood the importance of cultural sensitivity and often adapted their strategies to suit the customs and expectations of their counterparts. For instance, when dealing with Greek city-states, Carthage emphasized shared commercial interests, while in North Africa, they leveraged familial and tribal ties to strengthen alliances. This adaptability made Carthage a formidable negotiator, capable of maintaining influence across a vast and diverse region. Another key aspect of Carthaginian diplomacy was their use of marriage alliances. By marrying into influential families, Carthage secured loyalty and strengthened political bonds. These unions were not merely symbolic. They often resulted in tangible benefits, such as military support or access to vital trade routes. This practice demonstrated Carthage's ability to think long-term, using personal connections to secure the empire's future. However, Carthage's diplomatic efforts were not without challenges. The rise of Rome as a dominant power in the Mediterranean created a shifting political landscape that required constant recalibration of alliances. Carthage's diplomats had to balance competing interests, often walking a tightrope between maintaining old partnerships and forging new ones. This delicate balancing act was evident during the Second Punic War, when Carthage sought to rally allies like Macedon and Syracuse against Rome with mixed success. Despite these challenges, Carthage's diplomatic legacy endures. Their ability to negotiate, adapt, and build alliances set a standard for future empires. Even Rome, which ultimately defeated Carthage, adopted many of its diplomatic practices, recognizing their effectiveness. Carthage's art of diplomacy was not just about survival, it was about thriving in a world of shifting loyalties and competing ambitions. As we continue, we'll explore another fascinating aspect of Carthage's ingenuity: their advanced maritime navigation techniques, which allowed them to dominate the seas and expand their influence across the ancient world. Now, shifting our focus from the negotiating table to the open seas, we uncover the remarkable maritime navigation techniques that made Carthage a dominant force on the water. Carthage's mastery of the seas was not just about building sturdy ships. It was also about knowing how to navigate them with precision and confidence, even in the most challenging conditions. At the heart of Carthage's maritime success was their use of star charts. These detailed maps of the night sky allowed sailors to determine their position by observing the stars. By tracking the movement of constellations like Ursa Major and Orion, Carthaginian navigators could plot their course with remarkable accuracy, even when far from land. This celestial navigation was a game-changer, enabling Carthage to venture into uncharted waters and establish trade routes that stretched across the Mediterranean and beyond. But the stars were not their only guide. Carthaginian sailors also relied heavily on coastal mapping. They meticulously charted coastlines, noting landmarks, harbors, and potential hazards like reefs and sandbanks. These maps were not just practical tools, they were closely guarded secrets passed down through generations of sailors. This knowledge gave Carthage a significant advantage, allowing their ships to navigate safely and efficiently, even in unfamiliar territories. Another key aspect of their navigation was the use of sounding weights. These simple yet effective tools allowed sailors to measure the depth of the water and determine the composition of the seabed. By understanding the underwater terrain, Carthaginian navigators could avoid dangerous areas and identify safe passages, further enhancing their ability to travel long distances with confidence. Carthage's navigational expertise also extended to their understanding of weather patterns. By observing wind directions and ocean currents, they could predict storms and plan their voyages accordingly. This knowledge not only ensured the safety of their crews and cargo, but also allowed them to optimize their travel routes, reducing journey times and increasing efficiency. What truly set Carthage apart, however, was their ability to combine these techniques into a cohesive system. Star charts, coastal maps, sounding weights, and weather knowledge were all integrated into a single, sophisticated approach to navigation. This holistic method allowed Carthage to dominate the seas, connecting distant lands and cultures through their vast trade network. As we move forward, we'll explore another fascinating aspect of Carthage's ingenuity, their thriving textile industry, which not only fueled their economy but also left a lasting mark on Mediterranean fashion. Now, let's turn our attention from the open seas to the vibrant world of Carthaginian craftsmanship, where the textile industry thrived as a cornerstone of their economy and culture. Carthage was not only a maritime superpower but also a hub of innovation in the production of textiles, creating fabrics that were as functional as they were beautiful. At the heart of this industry was the production of wool and linen, which was spun, woven, and dyed into high-quality garments. Carthaginian weavers were renowned for their skill, creating intricate patterns and durable fabrics that were highly sought after across the Mediterranean. These textiles were not just everyday clothing, they were symbols of status, wealth, and cultural identity. One of the most remarkable aspects of Carthaginian textiles was their use of dyes, particularly the famous Tyrian purple. Extracted from the murex shellfish, this vibrant dye was incredibly labor-intensive to produce, requiring thousands of shellfish to create just a small amount of pigment. As a result, Tyrian purple became a symbol of luxury and power, reserved for the elite and often used in royal garments. Carthage's mastery of this dyeing process gave them a significant edge in trade, as their purple fabrics became highly prized commodities. But the Carthaginian textile industry was not limited to luxury goods. They also produced a wide range of practical textiles, from sturdy sails for their ships to durable clothing for everyday use. These goods were essential for both domestic consumption and trade, helping to fuel Carthage's economy and strengthen their connections with other cultures. The cultural significance of Carthaginian textiles extended beyond their practical uses. Clothing and dyes played a key role in religious rituals, social ceremonies, and even diplomacy. For example, the exchange of finely woven garments was often used to seal alliances or honor important guests. In this way, textiles became a powerful medium for expressing identity, status, and relationships within Carthaginian society. As we continue our journey through Carthage's forgotten practices, we'll next explore how their emphasis on education shaped the minds of future leaders and thinkers, leaving a lasting legacy on the ancient world. Shifting our focus from the vibrant world of textiles, we now step into the intellectual heart of Carthage, where education was not just a privilege but a cornerstone of their society. The Carthaginian education system was a remarkable blend of practicality and ambition, designed to cultivate skilled leaders, thinkers, and citizens who could navigate the complexities of their expanding empire. At its core, Carthaginian education emphasized literacy and numeracy, skills that were essential for trade, governance, and daily life. Children were taught to read and write in the Carthaginian alphabet, a script that facilitated communication across their vast territories. This focus on literacy wasn't just about record-keeping. It was about empowering individuals to engage in commerce, diplomacy, and cultural exchange. Imagine a young Carthaginian merchant, fluent in multiple languages, negotiating trade deals with partners from distant lands, all thanks to the education they received. Mathematics was another pillar of Carthaginian learning, particularly for those involved in trade and navigation. Students were trained in arithmetic, geometry, and even basic astronomy, skills that were crucial for calculating profits, measuring land, and charting courses across the Mediterranean. This mathematical prowess wasn't just theoretical, it was applied in real-world scenarios, from building ships to managing the intricate logistics of their trade networks. But education in Carthage went beyond practical skills. It was also about shaping future leaders. Young Carthaginians destined for positions of power were trained in rhetoric, philosophy, and the art of governance. They learned to think critically, debate effectively, and make decisions that balanced the needs of their people with the demands of their empire. This emphasis on leadership training ensured that Carthage remained a formidable power, even in the face of external threats and internal challenges. One of the most fascinating aspects of Carthaginian education was its inclusivity. While elite children received the most comprehensive training, even commoners had access to basic education, particularly in trades and crafts. This widespread literacy and skill building contributed to Carthage's reputation as a society of innovators and problem solvers, capable of adapting to changing circumstances and maintaining their dominance in the ancient world. As we reflect on the Carthaginian education system, it's clear that their investment in learning was not just about individual success, it was about building a resilient, forward-thinking society. And as we move forward, we'll uncover how this intellectual foundation influenced another fascinating aspect of Carthaginian life: their use of psychological warfare to outmaneuver their enemies. Now let's delve into the darker yet equally fascinating side of Carthaginian strategy: their mastery of psychological warfare. While their education system cultivated sharp minds, Carthage also understood the power of influencing the thoughts and emotions of their enemies. This wasn't just about brute force, it was about outsmarting opponents by playing on their fears, doubts, and perceptions. One of the most striking examples of Carthaginian psychological tactics was their use of propaganda. They were adept at crafting narratives that painted their enemies as weak, corrupt, or doomed to fail. For instance, during the Punic Wars, Carthage spread stories among Roman allies about the inevitability of Carthaginian victory, sowing seeds of doubt and weakening the resolve of Rome's supporters. This wasn't just idle gossip, it was a calculated effort to destabilize alliances and create divisions within enemy ranks. Fear was another powerful tool in Carthage's arsenal. The mere presence of their war elephants, for example, was enough to send enemy troops into panic. These massive creatures, often adorned with intimidating armor and accompanied by loud trumpets, created chaos on the battlefield. But Carthage didn't stop there. They amplified the fear by spreading rumors about the elephant's invincibility, making their enemies hesitate before even engaging in combat. This psychological edge often gave Carthage the upper hand, even when their forces were outnumbered. Carthage also excelled at manipulating perceptions of their own strength. They would stage elaborate displays of military might, such as parading their troops or showcasing captured enemy weapons, to project an image of invincibility. These displays weren't just for show, they were designed to demoralize opponents and make them question their chances of victory. By controlling the narrative, Carthage could often force their enemies into making mistakes or surrendering without a fight. But perhaps the most intriguing aspect of Carthaginian psychological warfare was their ability to adapt these tactics to different cultures and contexts. They understood that what worked against one enemy might not work against another, so they tailored their strategies accordingly. For example, when dealing with Greek city-states, Carthage emphasized their shared cultural values and portrayed themselves as protectors of Hellenic traditions. This approach helped them gain allies and neutralize potential threats without resorting to direct conflict. As we explore this aspect of Carthaginian strategy, it's clear that their use of psychological warfare was as sophisticated as it was effective. By targeting the minds of their enemies, they were able to achieve victories that might have otherwise been out of reach. And as we move forward, we'll uncover how this cunning approach extended into another critical area of Carthaginian life: their advanced metalworking techniques, which gave them a technological edge in both war and peace. Now, let's shift our focus to another remarkable aspect of Carthaginian ingenuity: their mastery of metalworking. While their psychological tactics gave them an edge in warfare, it was their advanced metalworking techniques that provided the physical tools to turn strategy into victory. Carthage wasn't just a military and trade powerhouse, it was also a hub of innovation in crafting weapons, tools, and even intricate jewelry, showcasing their technical prowess and artistic flair. At the heart of Carthaginian metalworking was their ability to extract and refine metals with remarkable precision. They sourced materials like iron, bronze, and gold from their vast trade networks, which stretched across the Mediterranean and beyond. Once these raw materials reached Carthage, skilled artisans transformed them into objects of both utility and beauty. Their weapons, for instance, were renowned for their durability and sharpness. Carthaginian swords, spears, and armor were not only functional, but also meticulously designed to give their soldiers a decisive advantage in battle. One of the standout achievements of Carthaginian metalworkers was their production of high-quality iron. Unlike many of their contemporaries, Carthage had developed advanced smelting techniques that allowed them to create stronger, more resilient iron tools and weapons. This innovation was particularly evident in their agricultural implements, such as plows and sickles, which were far more efficient than those used by neighboring civilizations. These tools not only boosted agricultural productivity, but also reinforced Carthage's reputation as a leader in technological advancement. But Carthaginian metalworking wasn't limited to practical items. Their artisans were also celebrated for their craftsmanship in creating exquisite jewelry and decorative objects. Using techniques like filigree and granulation, they produced intricate pieces adorned with precious stones and metals. These items weren't just symbols of wealth, they were also used in trade, diplomacy, and religious ceremonies, further cementing Carthage's influence across the ancient world. Perhaps one of the most fascinating aspects of Carthaginian metalworking was their ability to adapt and innovate. They borrowed techniques from other cultures, such as the Phoenicians and Greeks, but refined them to suit their own needs. This blend of tradition and innovation allowed Carthage to stay ahead of its rivals, both in war and in commerce. Their metalworking skills were so advanced that even after the fall of Carthage, their techniques continued to influence other civilizations, including the Romans. As we reflect on the legacy of Carthaginian metalworking, it's clear that their expertise in this field was a cornerstone of their success. From the battlefield to the marketplace, their ability to craft superior tools and weapons gave them a tangible edge. And as we move forward, we'll explore how this same spirit of innovation extended into another critical area: their practice of tribute collection, which played a key role in sustaining their empire's wealth and power. Now, let's turn our attention to another pillar of Carthage's dominance, their practice of tribute collection. While their metalworking skills provided the tools for success, it was their ability to extract wealth from conquered territories that fueled their empire's growth and stability. Carthage didn't just rely on trade and agriculture. They built a sophisticated system of tribute collection that ensured a steady flow of resources into their coffers. At its core, Carthage's tribute system was a carefully calculated mechanism designed to maximize economic gain while maintaining control over their vast territories. Conquered regions were required to pay regular tributes, often in the form of goods, precious metals, or even manpower. These payments weren't arbitrary. They were carefully assessed based on the wealth and productivity of each region. This ensured that Carthage could sustain its military campaigns, fund public works, and maintain its position as a Mediterranean superpower. One of the key methods Carthage used to enforce compliance was a combination of military presence and strategic alliances. They stationed garrisons in key territories to deter rebellion and ensure that tribute payments were made on time. At the same time, they cultivated relationships with local elites, offering them incentives to remain loyal to Carthage. This dual approach allowed them to maintain control without constant military intervention, saving resources while keeping their empire intact. The economic impact of this tribute system was profound. The wealth flowing into Carthage funded everything from infrastructure projects to the expansion of their navy. It also allowed them to invest in innovations, such as their advanced agricultural techniques and metalworking, which further strengthened their economy. In many ways, the tribute system was the lifeblood of Carthage's empire, enabling them to project power far beyond their borders, but the system wasn't without its challenges. Enforcing compliance in distant territories required constant vigilance, and rebellions were not uncommon. To address this, Carthage developed a network of spies and informants who monitored the loyalty of local leaders. They also employed a policy of swift and decisive punishment for those who resisted, sending a clear message to other territories about the consequences of defiance. Interestingly, Carthage's tribute system also had a cultural dimension. By integrating conquered peoples into their economic framework, they created a sense of interdependence that went beyond mere subjugation. Local economies became tied to Carthage's prosperity, fostering a degree of cooperation even among those who might otherwise have resisted Carthaginian rule. As we consider the legacy of Carthage's tribute collection, it's clear that this practice was more than just a means of extracting wealth. It was a cornerstone of their imperial strategy. By balancing coercion with incentives, they built an empire that was both powerful and resilient. And as we move forward, we'll explore how this same ingenuity extended into another fascinating aspect of Carthaginian life, their influence on Mediterranean cuisine, which brought new flavors and techniques to the ancient world. Now, let's savor a different aspect of Carthage's legacy, one that tantalized taste buds and transformed kitchens across the Mediterranean. While their tribute system fueled their empire's wealth, Carthage's influence on cuisine brought a richness to the ancient world that went beyond gold and silver. Through trade, conquest, and cultural exchange, Carthage introduced new foods, spices, and cooking techniques that left a lasting mark on Mediterranean culinary traditions. At the heart of this culinary revolution was Carthage's vast trade network. As merchants sailed across the Mediterranean, they brought back exotic ingredients from distant lands. Spices like saffron and cumin, fruits such as pomegranates and figs, and grains like millet and sorghum became staples in Carthaginian kitchens. These ingredients didn't just stay within Carthage's borders, they spread throughout the region, enriching the diets of neighboring cultures. One of Carthage's most significant contributions was their mastery of preserving food. In an era before refrigeration, they developed techniques like salting, drying, and fermenting to keep food edible for long voyages. This innovation not only sustained their sailors, but also allowed them to export preserved goods like salted fish and cured meats, which became highly sought-after commodities in markets across the Mediterranean. Carthage also played a pivotal role in popularizing certain cooking methods. They were among the first to use olive oil extensively in cooking, a practice that would become a hallmark of Mediterranean cuisine. Their use of clay ovens and grilling techniques influenced how food was prepared in places like Greece and Rome, laying the groundwork for dishes that are still enjoyed today. But perhaps the most fascinating aspect of Carthage's culinary influence was their ability to blend flavors from different cultures. As a hub of trade and cultural exchange, Carthage became a melting pot of culinary traditions. They combined North African spices with Phoenician cooking styles and Mediterranean ingredients, creating dishes that were both unique and universally appealing. This fusion of flavors not only delighted palates but also fostered a sense of shared identity among the diverse peoples of the Mediterranean. The impact of Carthage's cuisine extended beyond the dinner table. By introducing new crops and farming techniques, they helped shape agricultural practices across the region. For example, their cultivation of olives and grapes not only provided ingredients for cooking, but also laid the foundation for the wine and olive oil industries that would flourish in later centuries. As we reflect on Carthage's culinary legacy, it's clear that their influence was as much about connection as it was about flavor. Through food, they bridged cultures, economies, and traditions, leaving a legacy that continues to shape Mediterranean cuisine to this day. And as we move forward, we'll explore another remarkable aspect of Carthaginian ingenuity, their use of cryptography, a practice that added a layer of secrecy to their diplomacy and military strategy. Now, let's uncover a lesser-known but equally fascinating aspect of Carthage's ingenuity, their use of cryptography. In a world where secrets could mean the difference between victory and defeat, Carthage developed sophisticated methods to protect their communications, ensuring that their messages remained hidden from prying eyes. This practice of encoding information played a crucial role in their diplomacy and military strategy, giving them a strategic edge in a highly competitive ancient world. At the heart of Carthage's cryptographic system was the famous Carthaginian cipher, a method of encoding messages that baffled their enemies. While the exact details of this cipher remain a mystery, historians believe it involved a combination of substitution and transposition techniques. Substitution ciphers replaced letters with other letters or symbols, while transposition ciphers rearranged the order of letters in a message. Together, these methods created a complex code that was nearly impossible to crack without the key. Carthage's use of cryptography wasn't limited to military operations. Diplomats also relied on coded messages to negotiate alliances, broker treaties, and share sensitive information with allies. In an era where espionage was rampant, the ability to communicate securely was invaluable. By encrypting their messages, Carthage ensured that their plans and intentions remained confidential, even if intercepted by rival powers. One of the most intriguing examples of Carthage's cryptographic prowess comes from their interactions with Rome. During the Punic Wars, Carthaginian generals and diplomats frequently exchanged coded messages to coordinate their strategies. These encrypted communications allowed them to outmaneuver Roman forces on multiple occasions, demonstrating the practical benefits of their cryptographic expertise. But cryptography wasn't just about secrecy, it also reflected Carthage's broader cultural and intellectual achievements. The development of such a sophisticated system required a deep understanding of mathematics, language, and logic, showcasing the advanced knowledge of Carthaginian scholars and strategists. This blend of practicality and innovation highlights how Carthage leveraged every tool at their disposal to maintain their dominance in the ancient world. As we delve deeper into Carthage's use of cryptography, it's clear that this practice was more than just a tactical tool. It was a testament to their ingenuity and adaptability. By mastering the art of secret communication, Carthage not only protected their interests but also left a lasting legacy that influenced later civilizations. And as we move forward, we'll explore another remarkable aspect of Carthaginian innovation: their advanced urban sanitation systems, which set new standards for public health and city planning in the ancient world. Now, let's turn our attention to another groundbreaking innovation that set Carthage apart from its contemporaries: their advanced urban sanitation systems. In a time when many ancient cities struggled with waste management and disease, Carthage implemented solutions that were centuries ahead of their time, creating a cleaner, healthier environment for its citizens. At the core of Carthage sanitation efforts were their public baths, which served as both social hubs and centers of hygiene. These baths were not just places to relax, they were meticulously designed to promote cleanliness and prevent the spread of illness. Water was channeled through aqueducts and heated using advanced engineering techniques, ensuring a steady supply of warm water for bathing. This focus on public hygiene was a stark contrast to the practices of many other ancient civilizations where sanitation was often an afterthought. Equally impressive was Carthage's waste disposal system. The city's engineers developed an intricate network of underground sewers that efficiently carried waste away from populated areas. These sewers were constructed with durable materials and designed to prevent blockages, ensuring that waste was safely transported to designated disposal sites outside the city. This system not only reduced the risk of disease but also minimized unpleasant odors, contributing to a more pleasant urban environment. Carthage's commitment to sanitation extended to their streets as well. Public spaces were regularly cleaned and waste was collected and removed from residential areas. This proactive approach to urban cleanliness helped prevent the spread of illnesses like dysentery and cholera, which plagued many other ancient cities. By prioritizing public health, Carthage created a living environment that was not only more comfortable but also safer for its inhabitants. The impact of these sanitation practices went beyond health. A cleaner city fostered a sense of civic pride and order, reinforcing Carthage's reputation as a well-organized and advanced society. Visitors from other regions often marveled at the city's cleanliness, which stood in stark contrast to the squalor they encountered elsewhere. This attention to detail in urban planning and sanitation was yet another example of how Carthage leveraged innovation to maintain its dominance in the ancient world. As we reflect on Carthage's urban sanitation systems, it's clear that their approach was far more than a practical necessity. It was a reflection of their broader values. By prioritizing the health and well-being of their citizens, Carthage set a standard that would influence future civilizations. And as we move forward, we'll explore another remarkable aspect of Carthaginian ingenuity: their monumental architecture, which not only showcased their engineering prowess but also left an indelible mark on the ancient world. Now, let's step into the world of monumental design and uncover how Carthage's architectural brilliance left a lasting imprint on one of history's greatest empires, Rome. While Carthage is often remembered for its military and maritime achievements, its influence on Roman architecture is a testament to the city's enduring legacy. The Romans, known for their ability to adopt and refine the innovations of others, found much to admire in Carthaginian building techniques and styles. One of the most striking examples of Carthaginian influence can be seen in the use of arches and vaults. Carthage's engineers mastered the art of constructing large, stable arches, which allowed them to create expansive public spaces and durable structures. When Rome conquered Carthage, they didn't just destroy the city, they studied it. Roman builders adopted these techniques, refining them to construct iconic structures like the Colosseum and aqueducts that still stand today. The Carthaginian approach to arch construction became a cornerstone of Roman engineering, enabling the creation of buildings that were both functional and awe-inspiring. Another area where Carthage left its mark was in urban planning. Carthaginian cities were meticulously designed with grid systems, wide streets, and centralized public spaces. This emphasis on order and accessibility resonated with Roman ideals, and elements of Carthaginian urban design can be seen in Roman cities like Pompeii and Ostia. The Romans took these concepts further, blending them with their own innovations to create cities that were not only efficient but also grand in scale. Carthage's use of materials also influenced Roman architecture. The Carthaginians were skilled in working with local stone, creating structures that were both durable and aesthetically pleasing. Roman builders, inspired by this craftsmanship, began incorporating similar materials and techniques into their own projects. The result was a fusion of styles that gave Roman architecture its distinctive character: robust yet elegant, practical yet monumental. Perhaps one of the most fascinating examples of Carthaginian influence is seen in the design of temples. Carthaginian temples often featured large courtyards, intricate columns, and detailed carvings that reflected their religious and cultural values. Roman architects, particularly during the Republic and early Empire, drew inspiration from these designs, incorporating similar elements into their own sacred spaces. This blending of styles not only enriched Roman architecture, but also served as a reminder of the cultural exchange that occurred between these two great civilizations. As we reflect on Carthage's architectural legacy, it's clear that their innovations didn't just vanish with their empire. Instead, they became a part of the Roman architectural tradition, shaping the way future generations built and designed. And as we continue our journey through Carthage's forgotten practices, We'll next explore how their agricultural innovations transformed the ancient world, ensuring their influence extended far beyond the walls of their cities. Now, let's turn our attention to the fields and stables of ancient Carthage, where the practice of animal husbandry played a vital role in shaping both their economy and military might. Carthage's mastery of breeding and caring for livestock was not just about feeding its people, it was a cornerstone of their agricultural and strategic success. Carthaginian farmers were renowned for their expertise in raising animals, particularly cattle, sheep, and horses. These animals were not only a source of food and materials like wool and leather, but also essential for plowing fields and transporting goods. The Carthaginians developed advanced breeding techniques to produce stronger, healthier livestock, ensuring their agricultural output remained robust even in challenging conditions. This focus on quality and sustainability allowed Carthage to maintain a steady food supply, which was crucial for supporting their growing population and trade networks. But the role of animals in Carthage extended far beyond the farm. Horses in particular were a prized asset both for their use in agriculture and their critical role in warfare. Carthage's cavalry units were among the most feared in the ancient world, thanks in part to their well-bred, highly trained horses. These animals were carefully selected for their speed, endurance, and temperament, making them invaluable in battle. The Carthaginians also used horses to pull chariots, which were both a symbol of status and a powerful weapon on the battlefield. Another fascinating aspect of Carthaginian animal husbandry was their use of elephants in warfare. While not native to North Africa, Carthage imported elephants from regions further south and developed innovative methods for training and deploying them in combat. These massive creatures were not only intimidating to enemy forces, but also highly effective in breaking through enemy lines and creating chaos. The logistics of transporting and caring for elephants were immense, but Carthage's ability to integrate them into their military strategy showcased their ingenuity and resourcefulness. The Carthaginians also understood the importance of animal health and welfare. They developed early forms of veterinary care to treat injuries and illnesses, ensuring their livestock remained productive and their war animals battle-ready. This attention to detail reflected their broader commitment to excellence in all aspects of life, from agriculture to warfare. As we explore the legacy of Carthaginian animal husbandry, it's clear that their practices were far ahead of their time. By blending practical knowledge with innovative techniques, they created a system that not only sustained their civilization, but also gave them a strategic edge. And as we move forward, we'll uncover how Carthage's understanding of the stars and their movements influenced their navigation, agriculture, and even their religious practices. Now, let's shift our gaze upward to the skies, where the Carthaginians found not just wonder but also practical wisdom. Astronomy played a pivotal role in Carthage, influencing everything from their voyages across the Mediterranean to the timing of their harvests and even their spiritual rituals. This ancient civilization's understanding of the stars was far more than mere curiosity. It was a tool that shaped their daily lives and long-term strategies. For the Carthaginians, navigation was one of the most critical applications of astronomy. As a maritime superpower, their ability to traverse vast stretches of open water relied heavily on celestial guidance. Sailors used the positions of stars, particularly the North Star, to determine their direction during nighttime voyages. This knowledge allowed them to venture beyond the safety of coastal routes, opening up new trade opportunities and expanding their influence across the Mediterranean. The Carthaginians also developed early forms of star charts, which helped them map their journeys and predict seasonal winds, ensuring safer and more efficient travel. But the stars didn't just guide their ships, they also dictated the rhythms of agriculture. Carthaginian farmers relied on astronomical observations to determine the best times for planting and harvesting crops. By tracking the movements of the sun and moon, they could predict seasonal changes and align their farming practices with the natural cycles of the land. This precision not only maximized their agricultural output but also minimized the risk of crop failure, ensuring a stable food supply for their growing population. Astronomy also held deep religious significance for the Carthaginians. They believed that celestial events such as eclipses and the appearance of comets were messages from the gods. Priests and scholars studied the skies to interpret these signs, using their findings to guide important decisions from military campaigns to religious ceremonies. Temples and sacred spaces were often aligned with astronomical phenomena, reflecting the Carthaginians' belief in a harmonious connection between the heavens and the earth. One of the most fascinating aspects of Carthaginian astronomy was their ability to integrate this knowledge into their broader cultural and practical systems. Their understanding of the stars wasn't isolated, it was woven into the fabric of their society, influencing everything from trade routes to religious practices. This holistic approach highlights the Carthaginians' remarkable ability to blend science, spirituality, and practicality into a cohesive worldview. As we reflect on the Carthaginians' use of astronomy, it's clear that their insights into the cosmos were far ahead of their time. By harnessing the power of the stars, they not only navigated the physical world but also found meaning and guidance in the vast expanse above. And as we continue our journey, we'll explore how Carthage's mastery of maritime trade regulations ensured their dominance over the Mediterranean's bustling commerce routes. Now, let's set sail into the bustling world of Carthaginian commerce, where the rules of the sea were as vital as the ships themselves. The Carthaginians didn't just dominate the Mediterranean through their naval prowess, they also established a sophisticated system of maritime trade regulations that ensured their economic supremacy. These laws and customs were the backbone of their trade network, governing everything from tariffs to piracy prevention, and they played a crucial role in maintaining order and prosperity across their vast empire. At the heart of Carthage's trade regulations were tariffs, which were carefully calculated to balance revenue generation with the encouragement of commerce. Merchants arriving at Carthaginian ports were required to pay duties on their goods, with the rates varying depending on the type and value of the cargo. These tariffs weren't just a source of income for the state, they also helped regulate the flow of goods, ensuring that essential items like grain and olive oil were prioritized while luxury items were taxed more heavily. This system allowed Carthage to maintain a stable economy while fostering a thriving trade environment, but tariffs were only one piece of the puzzle. Carthage also implemented rigorous inspection protocols to ensure the quality and authenticity of traded goods. Inspectors, often stationed at key ports, would examine incoming shipments to verify their contents and ensure they met Carthaginian standards. This practice not only protected consumers from fraud but also safeguarded Carthage's reputation as a reliable trading partner. For example, counterfeit goods or substandard products could result in fines or even the confiscation of cargo, discouraging dishonest practices and maintaining trust within the trade network. Perhaps one of the most impressive aspects of Carthage's maritime regulations was their approach to piracy prevention. The Mediterranean was rife with pirates who preyed on merchant ships, threatening the stability of trade routes. To combat this, Carthage established a network of naval patrols and fortified harbors, creating safe zones for ships to dock and resupply. They also formed alliances with coastal communities, offering protection in exchange for loyalty and intelligence on pirate activities. These measures not only reduced the risk of piracy, but also reinforced Carthage's dominance over the seas, ensuring that their trade routes remained secure and profitable. Carthage's maritime trade regulations were more than just a set of rules, they were a reflection of their ingenuity and foresight. By creating a system that balanced economic interests with practical safeguards, they were able to sustain a vast and interconnected trade network that spanned the Mediterranean. This framework not only fueled their own prosperity, but also influenced the trade practices of other civilizations, leaving a lasting legacy on the ancient world. As we chart the course of Carthage's maritime achievements, it's clear that their success wasn't just about ships and sailors. It was about the meticulous planning and regulation that kept their empire afloat. And as we move forward, we'll uncover how Carthage's innovative use of camouflage in warfare gave them a strategic edge on the battlefield. Now, let's turn our attention to the vibrant world of Carthaginian art, where creativity and craftsmanship left an indelible mark on the Mediterranean. The Carthaginians were not just traders and warriors, they were also skilled artists whose works reflected their unique cultural identity and influenced the artistic traditions of neighboring civilizations. From pottery to sculpture to mosaics, Carthaginian art was a testament to their ingenuity and their ability to blend local traditions with foreign influences. One of the most striking aspects of Carthaginian art was their pottery, which combined practicality with aesthetic beauty. Carthaginian potters were known for their intricate designs and vibrant colors, often incorporating motifs inspired by nature, mythology, and daily life. These pieces were not only used domestically but also traded extensively across the Mediterranean, spreading Carthaginian artistic styles to places like Greece, Rome, and Egypt. For example, the distinctive red and black pottery of Carthage became highly sought after, influencing the ceramic traditions of other cultures and setting new standards for quality and design. Sculpture was another area where Carthage excelled, producing works that ranged from small figurines to large-scale statues. Carthaginian sculptors often depicted gods, goddesses, and mythological figures, reflecting the religious and spiritual beliefs of their society. One notable example is the Tanit figurines, which represented the goddess Tanit, a central figure in Carthaginian religion. These sculptures were not only objects of worship but also symbols of cultural identity, and their influence can be seen in the religious art of other Mediterranean societies, particularly in the way they depicted deities and sacred symbols. Mosaics were yet another medium through which Carthage showcased its artistic prowess. Carthaginian mosaics were renowned for their intricate patterns and vivid colors, often depicting scenes from mythology, nature, and everyday life. These mosaics adorned the floors and walls of homes, temples, and public buildings, serving both decorative and symbolic purposes. The techniques and styles developed by Carthaginian mosaic artists were adopted and adapted by other cultures, particularly the Romans, who incorporated Carthaginian designs into their own architectural and artistic traditions. The influence of Carthaginian art extended far beyond their borders, shaping the artistic landscape of the ancient Mediterranean. By blending local traditions with foreign influences, Carthage created a unique artistic identity that resonated with other cultures and left a lasting legacy. Their pottery, sculpture, and mosaics not only reflected their own values and beliefs, but also inspired new forms of expression in the art of neighboring civilizations. As we continue our journey through the forgotten practices of Carthage, we'll next explore how their innovative urban defense strategies protected their cities and ensured their survival in a volatile world. Now, shifting our focus to the realm of security and survival, let's uncover the Carthaginian practice of urban defense. In a world where threats loomed from rival empires and ambitious conquerors, Carthage developed some of the most sophisticated fortifications and defensive strategies of its time. These measures not only safeguarded their cities but also ensured the stability and longevity of their civilization. At the heart of Carthaginian urban defense were their massive city walls, which were engineering marvels of the ancient world. The walls of Carthage itself were said to be over 40 feet high and 30 feet thick in some sections, constructed from sturdy stone and reinforced with layers of earth and timber. These formidable barriers were designed to withstand prolonged sieges, offering protection against battering rams, siege towers, and even the most determined armies. The walls were also punctuated by strategically placed towers, providing vantage points for archers and lookouts to monitor approaching threats. beyond the walls, Carthage employed a network of defensive structures to create multiple layers of protection. Moats and ditches were dug around the perimeter of the city, making it difficult for enemy forces to approach. Gates were heavily fortified and often equipped with mechanisms to trap or slow down attackers. Inside the city, narrow, winding streets were designed to confuse invaders and funnel them into kill zones where defenders could easily pick them off. This urban layout was a deliberate strategy to turn the city itself into a weapon against its enemies. Carthage also relied on advanced military technology to bolster its defenses. Ballistae, catapults, and other siege engines were stationed along the walls, ready to rain destruction on any army that dared to attack. The Carthaginians were also skilled in the use of fire and other incendiary weapons, which they deployed to repel invaders and destroy siege equipment. These innovations gave Carthage a significant edge in defending its cities, even against larger and more powerful foes. Perhaps one of the most remarkable aspects of Carthaginian urban defense was their ability to adapt and innovate. They studied the tactics of their enemies and continuously improved their fortifications and strategies. For example, after encountering Greek siege techniques, Carthage incorporated elements of Greek engineering into their own defenses, creating a hybrid system that was even more effective. This willingness to learn and evolve was a key factor in their ability to withstand repeated assaults over centuries. The legacy of Carthaginian urban defense can be seen in the fortifications of later civilizations, particularly the Romans, who adopted and refined many of these techniques. Carthage's emphasis on layered defenses, strategic urban planning, and technological innovation set a standard for city protection that influenced military architecture for generations. As we move forward, we'll delve into another fascinating aspect of Carthaginian ingenuity: their controversial yet highly effective use of poison in warfare, a practice that added another layer to their formidable military reputation. Now, turning our attention to a darker yet equally fascinating aspect of Carthaginian warfare, we explore their use of poison, a practice that added a chilling layer to their military strategies. While Carthage is often celebrated for its engineering and naval prowess, their employment of poison reveals a more ruthless side of their tactics, one that was both feared and effective in the ancient world. The Carthaginians were known to use poison in various forms, from contaminating water supplies to coating weapons with toxic substances. One of the most infamous methods involved dipping arrowheads and spear tips into venomous concoctions. These poisoned weapons were designed to incapacitate or kill enemies quickly, even if the initial wound was not fatal. The toxins used were often derived from local plants and animals, with ingredients like hemlock, aconite, and venom from snakes or scorpions being common choices. The preparation of these poisons was a closely guarded secret, often entrusted to skilled alchemists or healers who understood the lethal properties of these substances. In addition to poisoned weapons, Carthage also employed poison in more strategic ways. During sieges, they would sometimes contaminate the water sources of enemy cities, forcing defenders to surrender or face widespread illness and death. This tactic was particularly devastating in prolonged conflicts, where access to clean water was critical for survival. The psychological impact of such methods cannot be overstated, knowing that even the most basic necessities could be deadly, created an atmosphere of fear and uncertainty among their enemies. The use of poison was not without controversy even in ancient times. While it was undeniably effective, it was often seen as dishonorable or unethical, especially by cultures that valued direct combat and martial honor. The Romans, for instance, viewed Carthage's use of poison as a sign of cowardice, further fueling the animosity between the two powers. However, for Carthage, the ends justified the means. In a world where survival often depended on outsmarting and outlasting opponents, poison was just another tool in their arsenal. What makes this practice particularly intriguing is the level of sophistication involved. The Carthaginians didn't just rely on brute force, they combined their knowledge of chemistry, biology, and psychology to create weapons that were as deadly as they were terrifying. This blend of science and strategy highlights their ingenuity, even in the most morally ambiguous aspects of warfare. As we continue our journey through the forgotten practices of Carthage, we'll next uncover how their approach to psychological conditioning shaped their soldiers and citizens, creating a society that was as resilient as it was resourceful. Moving forward, let's shift our focus to a practice that reveals a softer, more inclusive side of Carthaginian society, their remarkable approach to religious tolerance. In a world where ancient empires often imposed their beliefs on conquered peoples, Carthage stood out for its ability to embrace and integrate diverse religious practices. This policy of tolerance not only strengthened their empire but also fostered a unique cultural exchange that contributed to their long-term stability. Carthage, as a bustling hub of trade and commerce, was home to people from various regions and backgrounds. From Phoenician settlers to Berber tribes, Greek merchants, and even Roman expatriates, the city was a melting pot of cultures and faiths. Rather than suppressing these differences, Carthage chose to accommodate them. Temples dedicated to gods from different pantheons stood side by side, and religious festivals celebrated a wide array of deities. This openness allowed Carthage to create a sense of unity among its diverse population, ensuring that no single group felt alienated or oppressed. One of the most striking examples of this tolerance was the integration of local Berber religious practices into the Carthaginian state religion. The Berbers, indigenous to North Africa, worshipped gods like Ammon and Tanit, who were later adopted and revered by the Carthaginians. Tanit, in particular, became one of the most important deities in Carthage, symbolizing fertility, protection, and the city's prosperity. By embracing these local beliefs, Carthage not only gained the loyalty of the Berber population, but also enriched its own spiritual identity. This policy of religious tolerance also extended to the many foreign traders and settlers who called Carthage home. Greek merchants, for instance, were allowed to worship their own gods, such as Zeus and Apollo, while Egyptian expatriates could honor Isis and Osiris. This inclusivity made Carthage an attractive destination for people from across the Mediterranean, further boosting its economy and cultural influence. It also created a sense of mutual respect among its inhabitants, as people of different faiths coexisted peacefully under Carthaginian rule. The benefits of this approach were not just social but also political. By fostering an environment of religious harmony, Carthage minimized internal conflicts and rebellions, which were common in other ancient empires that imposed strict religious conformity. This stability allowed Carthage to focus its resources on external threats and expansion, rather than dealing with internal strife. It's a testament to their pragmatic leadership and understanding of human nature, recognizing that diversity, when managed wisely, can be a source of strength rather than division. As we reflect on this practice, it's clear that Carthage's religious tolerance was ahead of its time. In an era where conquest often meant cultural erasure, Carthage chose a different path, one that celebrated diversity and sought to build bridges rather than walls. This approach not only shaped their empire but also left a lasting legacy, reminding us of the power of inclusivity in creating a thriving and resilient society. Next, we'll delve into how Carthage's influence extended beyond religion and into the realm of fashion, shaping trends across the Mediterranean and leaving an indelible mark on ancient style. Now, let's turn our attention to a practice that showcases Carthage's flair for creativity and its far-reaching cultural impact, their influence on Mediterranean fashion. While Carthage is often remembered for its military might and trade prowess, its contributions to ancient style are equally remarkable. From vibrant dyes to intricate designs, Carthaginian fashion left an indelible mark on the Mediterranean world, shaping trends that resonated far beyond their borders. Carthage's fashion industry was deeply intertwined with its thriving trade networks. The city was renowned for its production of luxurious textiles, particularly those dyed with the famous Tyrian purple. This rich, deep hue, extracted from the murex shellfish, was a symbol of wealth and status. Carthaginian artisans perfected the dyeing process, creating fabrics that were highly sought after across the Mediterranean. Kings, nobles, and elites from Greece to Rome coveted these textiles, making Carthage a trendsetter in ancient fashion. But it wasn't just the colors that set Carthaginian clothing apart. Their garments were known for their intricate designs and high-quality craftsmanship. Carthaginian weavers used fine wool and linen to create tunics, cloaks, and shawls that were both functional and stylish. These pieces often featured elaborate patterns, including geometric shapes and floral motifs, reflecting the city's artistic sophistication. Such designs were not only popular in Carthage, but also inspired fashion trends in neighboring regions, blending local styles with Carthaginian elegance. Accessories also played a key role in Carthaginian fashion. Jewelry, in particular, was a hallmark of their style. Carthaginian artisans crafted exquisite pieces using gold, silver, and precious stones, often incorporating symbols of their gods and cultural heritage. Necklaces, bracelets, and earrings adorned with images of Tanit or Baal Hammon were not just decorative but also carried religious significance. These accessories became popular trade items, spreading Carthaginian aesthetics to places like Sicily, Sardinia, and even the Iberian Peninsula. Another notable contribution was Carthage's use of innovative dyes and techniques. Beyond Tyrian purple, they developed a range of vibrant colors using natural ingredients like indigo, saffron, and madder. These dyes were applied not only to clothing but also to leather goods such as belts and sandals, which became fashionable exports. Carthaginian leatherworkers were especially skilled, producing durable yet stylish footwear that was prized across the Mediterranean. The influence of Carthaginian fashion extended even to their rivals. Roman elites, for instance, adopted Carthaginian styles, incorporating elements like draped cloaks and colorful tunics into their own wardrobes. This cultural exchange highlights how Carthage's fashion legacy transcended political and military conflicts, leaving a lasting impact on the ancient world. As we explore this practice, it's clear that Carthage's contributions to fashion were more than just aesthetic. They were a reflection of the city's creativity, craftsmanship, and cultural influence. By setting trends and sharing their expertise, Carthage helped shape the way people dressed across the Mediterranean, proving that style, like history, is often a story of connection and exchange. Next, we'll uncover how Carthage's strategic use of naval blockades allowed them to dominate trade routes and reshape the balance of power in the ancient world. Now, let's shift our focus to one of Carthage's most effective military strategies, their mastery of naval blockades. This practice not only showcased their dominance at sea, but also played a crucial role in shaping the political and economic landscape of the ancient Mediterranean. By controlling key trade routes and cutting off enemy supplies, Carthage used naval blockades as a powerful tool to weaken rival states and secure their own supremacy. Carthage's ability to enforce naval blockades stemmed from its formidable navy, which we've touched on earlier. Their ships, designed for speed and durability, allowed them to patrol vast stretches of water with precision. When Carthage targeted a rival port or trade route, their fleet would position itself strategically, effectively halting the movement of goods and isolating the enemy. This tactic was particularly devastating during times of war, as it crippled the enemy's ability to sustain their armies and maintain economic stability. One of the most notable examples of Carthage's use of naval blockades occurred during the Punic Wars. By blockading key Roman ports, Carthage aimed to disrupt Rome's supply lines and weaken its military efforts. This strategy forced Rome to divert resources and manpower to break the blockade, creating significant logistical challenges. While Rome eventually adapted, the effectiveness of Carthage's naval tactics highlighted their strategic ingenuity and the importance of controlling the seas. But naval blockades weren't just about warfare, they also served as a tool for economic dominance. By controlling access to vital trade routes, Carthage could dictate the flow of goods across the Mediterranean. This allowed them to monopolize trade in valuable resources like grain, metals, and textiles, further enriching their empire. Rival states cut off from these resources often found themselves at a disadvantage both economically and militarily. The success of Carthage's naval blockades also relied on their ability to maintain supply lines for their own forces. While they starved their enemies of resources, Carthage ensured their fleets remained well-provisioned through a network of coastal outposts and alliances. This logistical prowess allowed them to sustain prolonged blockades, wearing down their opponents over time. As we examine this practice, it's clear that Carthage's use of naval blockades was a testament to their strategic foresight and maritime expertise. By leveraging their naval strength, they not only secured their own dominance but also reshaped the balance of power in the ancient world. This approach underscores how Carthage's mastery of the seas extended far beyond battles. It was a cornerstone of their empire's success. Next, we'll explore how Carthage's innovative siege warfare techniques allowed them to conquer fortified cities and expand their influence across the Mediterranean. Now, let's turn our attention to another remarkable aspect of Carthage's military prowess, their use of siege warfare. While their naval blockades demonstrated their dominance at sea, Carthage's ability to conquer fortified cities on land was equally impressive. Their innovative techniques and machinery, such as battering rams and siege towers, allowed them to break through even the most formidable defenses, expanding their influence across the Mediterranean. Carthage's approach to siege warfare was both strategic and resourceful. When faced with a well-fortified city, they didn't rely solely on brute force. Instead, they combined engineering ingenuity with tactical precision. One of their most effective tools was the battering ram, a massive wooden beam often reinforced with metal. Carthaginian engineers designed these rams to be both durable and powerful, capable of smashing through thick stone walls. To protect the operators, the rams were often housed within mobile shelters, shielding them from enemy arrows and projectiles. But battering rams were just one piece of the puzzle. Carthage also employed siege towers, towering structures that allowed their soldiers to scale city walls and engage defenders directly. These towers were engineering marvels, often several stories high and equipped with ladders, platforms, and even drawbridges. Built from sturdy wood and sometimes covered in fire-resistant materials, they were designed to withstand enemy attacks while providing a stable base for Carthaginian troops to launch their assault. The sight of these massive towers rolling toward a city's walls was enough to strike fear into the hearts of defenders. Carthage's success in siege warfare also relied on their ability to adapt to different challenges. For example, when faced with cities surrounded by water or difficult terrain, they developed specialized equipment like floating bridges and portable ramps. These innovations allowed them to overcome natural obstacles and maintain their momentum during prolonged sieges. Additionally, Carthaginian commanders often employed psychological tactics such as feints or false retreats to confuse and demoralize their enemies before launching a decisive attack. One of the most famous examples of Carthage's siege warfare expertise occurred during the siege of Acrogas in Sicily. Facing a well-defended Greek city, Carthage deployed a combination of battering rams, siege towers, and tunneling techniques to breach the walls. The siege lasted for months, but Carthage's persistence and ingenuity ultimately led to their victory. This success not only demonstrated their military capabilities, but also solidified their reputation as a formidable power in the ancient world. Beyond their technical achievements, Carthage's use of siege warfare had a profound impact on their empire's expansion. By conquering fortified cities, they gained control of key territories and resources, further strengthening their economic and political influence. Their ability to adapt their tactics to different environments and challenges set them apart from other ancient powers and showcased their strategic brilliance. As we reflect on Carthage's use of siege warfare, it's clear that their innovations went beyond mere brute force. They combined engineering, strategy, and adaptability to overcome even the most daunting obstacles. This practice not only secured their military victories but also left a lasting legacy in the art of warfare. Next, we'll delve into another fascinating aspect of Carthaginian culture, their monumental architecture and its significance in shaping their empire's identity. Now, shifting our focus from the battlefield to the heart of Carthaginian cities, we uncover another remarkable practice that defined their civilization: their monumental architecture. Carthage was not only a military and economic powerhouse but also a cultural beacon, and their grand temples, tombs, and public buildings stand as enduring testaments to their ambition and artistry. At the core of Carthaginian monumental architecture was a deep connection to their religious and cultural identity. Temples, in particular, were more than just places of worship. They were symbols of divine favor and civic pride. The Temple of Eshmon, dedicated to the god of healing, was one of the most iconic structures in Carthage. Built with towering columns, intricate carvings, and expansive courtyards, it served as both a spiritual center and a gathering place for the community. The temple's design reflected the Carthaginians' reverence for their gods, blending local traditions with influences from neighboring cultures like the Phoenicians and Greeks. But temples were just one aspect of their architectural legacy. Carthage also constructed grand tombs for their elite, showcasing their belief in an afterlife and the importance of honoring the dead. These tombs, often carved into rock or built with finely cut stone, were adorned with inscriptions, statues, and offerings. The tomb of the priestess, for example, featured detailed reliefs depicting religious rituals and scenes from daily life, providing a glimpse into the values and beliefs of Carthaginian society. These structures were not only memorials but also statements of power and prestige, ensuring that the legacy of the deceased endured for generations. Public buildings were another cornerstone of Carthaginian architecture, reflecting their commitment to civic life and governance. The city's agora, or central square, was surrounded by administrative buildings, marketplaces, and theaters. These spaces were designed to foster community engagement and showcase the wealth and sophistication of Carthage. The use of columns, arches, and mosaics in these structures demonstrated their advanced engineering skills and artistic sensibilities. One notable example was the Carthaginian Senate House, a grand hall where leaders gathered to debate and make decisions that shaped the empire's future. What set Carthaginian monumental architecture apart was its ability to blend functionality with beauty. Their buildings were not only visually stunning but also engineered to withstand the test of time. The use of durable materials like limestone and marble, combined with innovative construction techniques, ensured that these structures remained intact for centuries. Even after the fall of Carthage, their architectural influence persisted, inspiring later civilizations like the Romans, who adopted and adapted many of their designs. The cultural significance of Carthaginian monumental architecture cannot be overstated. These structures were more than just physical landmarks. They were expressions of identity, power, and faith. They reinforced the social hierarchy, celebrated religious devotion, and provided spaces for communal life. Through their architecture, the Carthaginians communicated their values and aspirations, leaving a legacy that continues to captivate historians and archaeologists today. As we marvel at the grandeur of Carthage's monumental architecture, we gain a deeper understanding of their civilization's complexity and creativity. These structures were not merely feats of engineering but also reflections of a society that valued beauty, tradition, and innovation. Next, we'll explore how Carthage's artistic and cultural contributions extended beyond architecture, shaping the broader Mediterranean world. Now, let's turn our attention to the sounds that once filled the air of Carthage and echoed across the Mediterranean. Music was not just an art form for the Carthaginians, it was a vital part of their cultural identity, weaving its way into religious ceremonies, social gatherings, and even military campaigns. Their musical traditions left a lasting imprint on the broader Mediterranean world, influencing the rhythms and melodies of neighboring cultures. Carthaginian music was deeply intertwined with their religious practices. Instruments like the lyre, the double flute, and the tambourine were commonly used in rituals to honor their gods. The lyre, with its delicate strings, was often played during ceremonies dedicated to Baal Hammon, the chief deity of Carthage. Its soothing tones were believed to bridge the gap between the mortal and divine realms, creating a sense of spiritual connection. Meanwhile, the double flute, with its haunting melodies, accompanied processions and dances, adding an air of solemnity and reverence to religious events. These instruments were not just tools for worship, they were symbols of Carthage's cultural sophistication and their ability to blend artistry with spirituality. But Carthaginian music wasn't confined to temples. It also played a central role in everyday life, from festivals to private celebrations. The tambourine, with its lively rhythms, was a favorite at social gatherings, encouraging dance and merriment. Carthaginian musicians were skilled at improvising, creating music that reflected the mood of the moment. This spontaneity and creativity made their music highly adaptable, allowing it to resonate with diverse audiences across the Mediterranean. One of the most significant contributions of Carthaginian music was its influence on neighboring cultures. Through trade and cultural exchange, Carthaginian instruments and musical styles spread to places like Greece, Rome, and Egypt. The Greeks, for instance, adopted the double flute, incorporating it into their own musical traditions. Similarly, the Romans were inspired by Carthaginian rhythms, using them to enhance their theatrical performances and public spectacles. Even in Egypt, traces of Carthaginian musical influence can be found in the fusion of styles that emerged during periods of cultural exchange. The Carthaginians also used music as a tool of diplomacy and unity. During festivals and public events, musicians from different regions were invited to perform, creating a shared cultural experience that fostered goodwill and cooperation. This practice not only showcased Carthage's artistic prowess, but also strengthened their ties with allies and trading partners. Music became a universal language, transcending borders and bringing people together. What made Carthaginian music truly remarkable was its ability to evolve while retaining its distinct identity. They borrowed elements from other cultures, such as the Phoenicians and Berbers, but always infused them with their own unique flair. This blend of tradition and innovation ensured that Carthaginian music remained vibrant and influential, even as it spread across the Mediterranean. As we listen to the echoes of Carthaginian music, we gain a deeper appreciation for their role as cultural pioneers. Their melodies and rhythms not only enriched their own society, but also shaped the musical landscape of the ancient world. Next, we'll explore how Carthage's innovative practices extended into the realm of maritime insurance, another fascinating aspect of their legacy. Now, let's set sail into another fascinating aspect of Carthage's legacy, their pioneering approach to maritime insurance. In a world where the seas were as unpredictable as they were essential, Carthaginian merchants developed innovative methods to safeguard their trade ventures, ensuring their goods and ships were protected against the many risks of the open waters. Carthage's vast trade network, stretching across the Mediterranean and beyond, relied heavily on the safe passage of ships carrying valuable cargo. Storms, piracy, and shipwrecks were constant threats, and losing a vessel could mean financial ruin for merchants. To mitigate these risks, the Carthaginians devised an early form of maritime insurance, a system that allowed traders to share the burden of potential losses. This practice not only protected individual merchants but also encouraged more people to engage in trade, fueling the growth of Carthage's economy. At the heart of this system was the concept of shared risk. Merchants would pool resources, contributing to a collective fund that could be used to compensate anyone who suffered a loss at sea. This mutual agreement ensured that no single trader bore the full brunt of a disaster. For example, if a ship carrying olive oil or precious metals was lost in a storm, the fund would cover a portion of the lost value, allowing the merchant to recover and continue trading. This collaborative approach was revolutionary for its time and laid the groundwork for modern insurance practices. The Carthaginians also introduced written contracts to formalize these agreements. These documents outline the terms of the insurance, including the value of the cargo, the routes to be taken, and the conditions under which compensation would be provided. Such contracts were often witnessed by officials or community leaders, adding a layer of trust and accountability to the process. This level of organization and transparency was rare in the ancient world and demonstrated Carthage's advanced understanding of commerce and risk management. Another key feature of Carthaginian maritime insurance was its adaptability. The system evolved to address new challenges, such as the rise of piracy in certain regions. Merchants could purchase additional coverage for high-risk routes, ensuring they were protected even in the most dangerous waters. This flexibility made the system highly effective and widely adopted, further solidifying Carthage's reputation as a hub of trade and innovation. The impact of Carthaginian maritime insurance extended far beyond their own empire. As their trade routes connected distant cultures, their practices influenced neighboring civilizations. The Greeks and Romans, for instance, adopted similar systems, recognizing the value of shared risk in fostering economic stability. Even today, the principles established by the Carthaginians can be seen in modern insurance policies, highlighting their enduring contribution to global commerce. By creating a system that balanced risk and reward, the Carthaginians not only protected their own interests but also paved the way for safer and more prosperous trade across the ancient world. Their ingenuity in this area underscores their role as pioneers of economic innovation. Next, we'll explore how Carthage's practices extended into the realm of psychological conditioning, another remarkable aspect of their legacy. Now, let's shift our focus to a practice that reveals the Carthaginians' deep understanding of the human mind, their use of psychological conditioning in training. Carthage's military and societal strength didn't just rely on physical prowess or advanced weaponry. It was also rooted in their ability to shape the mindset of their soldiers and citizens, fostering resilience, discipline, and unwavering loyalty. At the core of Carthaginian training was the belief that mental fortitude was just as important as physical strength. Soldiers were subjected to rigorous exercises designed to push them beyond their limits, not only to build endurance but also to condition their minds to withstand stress and adversity. For instance, recruits were often placed in simulated battle scenarios where they faced overwhelming odds, forcing them to think strategically and remain calm under pressure. This approach prepared them for the chaos of real combat, ensuring they could adapt and persevere even in the most dire situations. But Carthage's psychological conditioning extended beyond the battlefield. Citizens, too, were trained to embody the values of loyalty and sacrifice for the greater good of the empire. From a young age, children were taught stories of Carthaginian heroes who had overcome incredible challenges, instilling a sense of pride and duty. These narratives were reinforced through public ceremonies and rituals, where the community came together to celebrate their shared identity and purpose. By embedding these ideals into the collective consciousness, Carthage created a society that was deeply committed to its survival and success. One particularly striking example of this conditioning was the use of group cohesion to strengthen individual resolve. Soldiers were often trained in tightly knit units, where each member's success depended on the others. This fostered a sense of camaraderie and mutual trust, making it nearly impossible for individuals to abandon their comrades or betray their cause. The psychological bond formed within these units was so strong that even in the face of defeat, Carthaginian soldiers were known to fight to the last man rather than surrender. Carthage also employed psychological tactics to demoralize their enemies. Before battles, they would often stage elaborate displays of strength, such as parading their war elephants or showcasing their disciplined formations. These demonstrations were designed to instill fear and doubt in opposing forces, weakening their resolve before the fighting even began. By mastering the art of psychological warfare, Carthage gained a significant advantage over their adversaries, often securing victories without the need for prolonged conflict. The legacy of Carthaginian psychological conditioning can still be seen in modern training methods. The principles of resilience, teamwork, and mental toughness that they pioneered continue to influence military and organizational practices today. Their ability to harness the power of the mind not only made them formidable opponents, but also ensured the loyalty and unity of their people, even in the face of overwhelming challenges. As we move forward, we'll uncover another intriguing aspect of Carthage's ingenuity: their practice of urban agriculture, which transformed their cities into self-sustaining hubs of productivity. Now, let's turn our attention to a practice that highlights Carthage's innovative approach to sustainability: their practice of urban agriculture. In a time when most ancient civilizations relied on rural farms to feed their populations, Carthage took a different path, transforming their cities into thriving centers of agricultural productivity. This forward-thinking approach not only ensured a steady food supply but also strengthened the resilience of their urban centers. At the heart of Carthaginian urban agriculture was the efficient use of limited space. With their cities often densely populated, the Carthaginians developed creative solutions to cultivate crops within city limits. Rooftop gardens were a common sight, where residents grew vegetables, herbs, and even small fruit trees. These elevated gardens not only maximized space but also provided shade and insulation for the buildings below, showcasing the Carthaginians' ability to blend practicality with ingenuity. Communal farming spaces were another cornerstone of their urban agriculture system. Open areas within the city were designated for shared cultivation, where citizens could grow staple crops like wheat, barley, and legumes. These communal plots were managed collectively, fostering a sense of community and cooperation among residents. By pooling resources and labor, Carthage ensured that even those without access to private land could contribute to and benefit from the city's food production. The Carthaginians also integrated agriculture into their urban planning in ways that went beyond mere functionality. Public spaces such as courtyards and plazas often featured ornamental plants and fruit-bearing trees, blending beauty with utility. This dual-purpose approach not only enhanced the aesthetic appeal of their cities, but also provided additional sources of food and shade for the population. Water management played a crucial role in the success of Carthaginian urban agriculture. Advanced irrigation systems, including aqueducts and cisterns, ensured a reliable water supply for crops even during dry seasons. Rainwater was collected and stored, while wastewater from public baths and other sources was repurposed for irrigation, demonstrating their commitment to resource efficiency. The benefits of Carthage's urban agriculture extended far beyond food security. By reducing their reliance on distant farms, the Carthaginians minimized the risk of supply disruptions caused by warfare or natural disasters. This self-sufficiency made their cities more resilient and less vulnerable to external threats. Additionally, the practice of urban agriculture contributed to a healthier population, as fresh produce was readily available to all residents, regardless of their social status. The legacy of Carthaginian urban agriculture can still be seen in modern cities that embrace urban farming as a solution to food insecurity and environmental challenges. Their innovative use of space, community-driven approach, and integration of agriculture into urban life serve as a testament to their foresight and adaptability. As we continue our exploration, we'll delve into another fascinating aspect of Carthage's cultural influence, their impact on Mediterranean literature, where storytelling and historical records played a pivotal role in shaping their identity and legacy. Now, let's shift our focus to the world of words and imagination, where Carthage left an indelible mark on Mediterranean literature. The Carthaginians were not just masters of trade and warfare. They were also skilled storytellers, poets, and historians whose works resonated far beyond their borders. Their literary contributions played a significant role in shaping the cultural landscape of the ancient Mediterranean, influencing neighboring civilizations and leaving a legacy that endures to this day. At the heart of Carthaginian literature was a rich tradition of storytelling. Their tales often revolved around themes of heroism, exploration, and the interplay between humans and the divine. These stories were not just entertainment, they served as a way to preserve history, pass down moral lessons, and reinforce cultural identity. One of the most famous examples is the legend of Queen Dido, the founder of Carthage, whose story of love, betrayal, and resilience became a cornerstone of both Carthaginian and Roman mythology. This tale, later immortalized by the Roman poet Virgil in the Aeneid, highlights how Carthaginian narratives transcended their own culture and became part of a shared Mediterranean heritage. Poetry also held a special place in Carthaginian society. Their poets crafted verses that celebrated the beauty of nature, the triumphs of their people, and the mysteries of the gods. These poems were often performed during public festivals and religious ceremonies, creating a sense of unity and shared experience among the audience. The rhythmic and lyrical qualities of Carthaginian poetry influenced the poetic traditions of neighboring cultures, particularly the Greeks and Romans, who admired and adapted their style. Historical records were another vital aspect of Carthaginian literature. The Carthaginians were meticulous chroniclers, documenting everything from military campaigns to trade agreements. These records were not only practical tools for governance, but also served as a way to assert their place in history. By preserving their achievements and experiences, the Carthaginians ensured that their legacy would endure even after their civilization fell. Their emphasis on accurate record-keeping influenced other Mediterranean cultures, encouraging them to document their own histories with greater precision. The Carthaginians also excelled in the art of translation and adaptation. As a hub of trade and cultural exchange, Carthage was a melting pot of ideas and traditions. Their scholars translated works from other cultures, such as the Greeks and Egyptians, into their own language, making these texts accessible to a wider audience. This practice of cultural exchange enriched Carthaginian literature and allowed their ideas to spread across the Mediterranean, fostering a sense of interconnectedness among diverse civilizations. The influence of Carthaginian literature can still be seen in the works of later Mediterranean writers. Their themes, styles, and storytelling techniques inspired generations of poets, historians, and playwrights, shaping the literary traditions of the ancient world. By blending their own unique voice with the voices of others, the Carthaginians created a body of work that was both distinctly their own and universally resonant. As we move forward, we'll explore another intriguing aspect of Carthaginian culture, their practice of ritual cleansing, which combined religious devotion with a commitment to hygiene and well-being. This practice offers yet another glimpse into the ingenuity and depth of Carthaginian society. Now, let's turn our attention to a practice that beautifully intertwined the spiritual and the practical, the Carthaginian tradition of ritual cleansing. This practice was not merely about physical cleanliness. It was a profound expression of religious devotion and a commitment to overall well-being. For the Carthaginians, ritual cleansing was a way to purify both the body and the soul, creating a harmonious balance between the individual and the divine. At the heart of this practice was the belief that cleanliness was a form of reverence. The Carthaginians saw water as a sacred element, a gift from the gods that had the power to wash away impurities, both physical and spiritual. Ritual cleansing often took place in specially designated areas, such as sacred springs or public baths, which were considered holy spaces. These locations were not just places for washing, they were sites of worship where individuals could connect with the divine through acts of purification. The process of ritual cleansing was deeply symbolic. It typically involved a series of steps, including washing the hands, face, and feet, as well as full body immersion in water. Each step was accompanied by prayers or invocations, asking the gods for protection, forgiveness, or blessings. This combination of physical and spiritual actions reinforced the idea that cleanliness was a form of respect, not just for oneself, but for the gods and the community as a whole. Ritual cleansing also played a significant role in Carthaginian religious ceremonies. Before participating in important rituals or festivals, individuals were required to undergo purification to ensure they were spiritually prepared. This practice underscored the Carthaginians' belief in the interconnectedness of the physical and spiritual worlds. By purifying themselves, they believed they could better communicate with the divine and receive their favor. Beyond its religious significance, ritual cleansing had practical benefits as well. In a time when hygiene was not well understood, the Carthaginians' emphasis on cleanliness likely contributed to better public health. Their advanced sanitation systems, which included public baths and efficient waste disposal, were closely tied to their religious practices. This integration of hygiene and spirituality highlights the Carthaginians' innovative approach to both personal and communal well-being. The cultural impact of ritual cleansing extended beyond Carthage itself. As a major hub of trade and cultural exchange, Carthage influenced neighboring civilizations who adopted and adapted these practices. The Roman baths, for example, owe much to the Carthaginian tradition of combining hygiene with religious ritual. This blending of the sacred and the practical became a hallmark of Mediterranean culture, shaping the way people thought about cleanliness and spirituality for centuries. As we continue our journey through the forgotten practices of Carthage, we'll next explore how they employed camouflage in warfare, a tactic that showcased their ingenuity and strategic brilliance. This next chapter reveals yet another layer of Carthage's remarkable legacy, one that continues to captivate and inspire. Now, let's shift our focus to a practice that highlights the Carthaginians' ingenuity on the battlefield, their use of camouflage in warfare. This tactic was not just about hiding, it was a sophisticated strategy that allowed Carthage to outmaneuver its enemies and gain a critical edge in conflicts. By blending into their surroundings, Carthaginian forces could strike with precision and unpredictability, leaving their opponents disoriented and vulnerable. The Carthaginians were masters of adapting their environment to their advantage. On land, they often used natural materials like foliage, mud, and rocks to disguise their troops and fortifications. Soldiers would cover themselves with leaves and branches, making it nearly impossible for enemies to spot them until it was too late. This technique was particularly effective in forested or rugged terrains, where the natural landscape provided ample opportunities for concealment. By merging with their surroundings, Carthaginian forces could launch ambushes or retreat without detection, turning the terrain itself into a weapon. At sea, Carthage's naval forces employed similar tactics to outwit their adversaries. Ships were sometimes painted in colors that matched the sea or the sky, making them harder to spot from a distance. Additionally, they used sails dyed in muted tones to blend in with the horizon, especially during dawn or dusk when visibility was low. This clever use of camouflage allowed Carthaginian fleets to approach enemy vessels undetected, giving them the upper hand in naval engagements. Fortifications were another area where Carthage's camouflage techniques shone. Their defensive structures, such as walls and watchtowers, were often designed to blend seamlessly with the surrounding landscape. By using locally sourced materials and natural colors, they ensured that their fortifications were not only sturdy but also inconspicuous. This made it difficult for invading armies to assess the strength of Carthaginian defenses or plan effective attacks. In some cases, they even constructed false walls or decoy structures to mislead enemies, further demonstrating their strategic brilliance. The psychological impact of Carthage's camouflage tactics cannot be overstated. Enemies often found themselves unnerved by the sudden appearance of Carthaginian forces, who seemed to materialize out of nowhere. This element of surprise not only disrupted enemy plans but also sowed fear and confusion, weakening their resolve. The Carthaginians understood that warfare was as much about the mind as it was about physical strength, and their use of camouflage played a crucial role in their military successes. As we move forward, we'll delve into another fascinating aspect of Carthaginian culture: their vibrant public festivals. These events were more than just celebrations. They were a reflection of Carthage's rich traditions and communal spirit, offering a glimpse into the daily lives and values of its people. Stay tuned as we uncover how these festivals brought the Carthaginian world to life. Now, let's step into the vibrant world of Carthaginian public festivals, where the spirit of the city came alive in a dazzling display of culture, faith, and community. These festivals were far more than mere celebrations. They were a cornerstone of Carthaginian life, weaving together the threads of religion, social cohesion, and political unity. For the people of Carthage, these events were a time to honor their gods, strengthen bonds, and showcase the city's prosperity to the world. At the heart of these festivals was their deep religious significance. The Carthaginians were a devout people, and their festivals often revolved around honoring their pantheon of gods, particularly Baal Hammon and Tanit, the chief deities of Carthage. Rituals, sacrifices, and processions were central to these celebrations, with priests and priestesses playing key roles in conducting ceremonies. These acts of devotion were believed to ensure the favor of the gods, bringing blessings of fertility, prosperity, and protection to the city. The grandeur of these religious observances not only reinforced the spiritual connection between the people and their deities, but also served as a reminder of the divine authority that underpinned Carthaginian society. Beyond their religious purpose, public festivals were a powerful tool for social unity. They brought together people from all walks of life: merchants, artisans, farmers, and nobles, creating a shared sense of identity and belonging. Music, dance, and theatrical performances filled the streets, while feasts and games provided opportunities for communal joy and interaction. These events allowed Carthaginians to celebrate their shared heritage and values, fostering a sense of solidarity that transcended social divisions. In a society as diverse and expansive as Carthage, these festivals were essential in maintaining harmony and cooperation among its people. Politically, public festivals were a stage for the city's leaders to demonstrate their power and benevolence. Rulers and officials often sponsored these events, using them as a platform to gain favor with the populace and reinforce their authority. Lavish displays of wealth, such as elaborate decorations and generous distributions of food and gifts, were common, showcasing the prosperity of Carthage and the generosity of its leaders. These festivals also served as a means of diplomacy, with foreign dignitaries sometimes invited to witness the city's grandeur, further cementing Carthage's reputation as a dominant and cultured power in the Mediterranean. The legacy of Carthaginian festivals extends beyond their time, offering us a glimpse into the values and priorities of this ancient civilization. They remind us that celebrations are not just about entertainment, but are deeply rooted in the fabric of society, reflecting its beliefs, aspirations, and connections. As we continue our journey through the forgotten practices of Carthage, we'll next explore how their influence reached even further, shaping the fields of medicine and healing across the Mediterranean. Stay with us as we uncover the next chapter in Carthage's remarkable story. Now, let's turn our attention to the remarkable contributions Carthage made to the field of medicine, a legacy that rippled across the Mediterranean and beyond. The Carthaginians were not only skilled traders and warriors, but also pioneers in the art of healing, blending their own knowledge with influences from neighboring cultures to create a sophisticated medical tradition. Their expertise in herbal remedies, surgical techniques, and public health practices left an indelible mark on the ancient world, shaping the way medicine was practiced for centuries. At the core of Carthaginian medicine was their deep understanding of the natural world. The city's strategic location in the Mediterranean allowed it to access a wealth of medicinal plants and herbs, which were carefully cultivated and studied by Carthaginian healers. They developed a vast pharmacopoeia, using plants like myrrh, frankincense, and aloe vera to treat a wide range of ailments, from infections to digestive disorders. These remedies were not only effective but also highly sought after, becoming valuable commodities in Carthage's extensive trade networks. As their knowledge spread, so too did their reputation as skilled practitioners of herbal medicine. Surgical innovation was another area where Carthage excelled. Archaeological evidence suggests that Carthaginian surgeons were adept at performing complex procedures, including wound care, bone setting, and even early forms of cataract surgery. Their tools, crafted with precision from bronze and iron, were among the most advanced of their time. These techniques were likely influenced by interactions with Egyptian and Greek physicians, but the Carthaginians adapted and refined them to suit their own needs. This exchange of knowledge highlights the interconnectedness of ancient Mediterranean cultures and the role Carthage played as a bridge between them. Public health was also a priority for the Carthaginians, who understood the importance of sanitation and disease prevention. Their cities were equipped with advanced drainage systems and public baths, which helped reduce the spread of illness. They also practiced quarantine measures during outbreaks, a concept that would later become a cornerstone of modern medicine. These forward-thinking approaches not only improved the quality of life for Carthaginians, but also set a precedent for other civilizations to follow. The influence of Carthaginian medicine extended far beyond their borders, as their knowledge was carried by traders, travelers, and even conquered peoples. Greek and Roman physicians, in particular, drew inspiration from Carthaginian practices, incorporating their remedies and techniques into their own medical traditions. This exchange of ideas enriched the broader Mediterranean world, laying the groundwork for the development of Western medicine. As we reflect on the Carthaginian contributions to medicine, it's clear that their legacy is one of innovation, collaboration, and a deep respect for the healing arts. Their ability to blend knowledge from diverse sources and adapt it to their own needs is a testament to their ingenuity and resourcefulness. And now, as we continue our exploration of Carthage's forgotten practices, we'll set sail into the realm of maritime exploration, uncovering how their voyages of discovery reshaped the ancient world. Stay with us as we chart the next chapter in Carthage's extraordinary story. Now, let's set our sights on the vast horizons of the Mediterranean and beyond, where Carthage's spirit of adventure and discovery truly came to life. The Carthaginians were not just masters of trade and warfare. They were also fearless explorers, driven by a desire to uncover new lands and expand their influence across the seas. Their voyages of exploration were among the most ambitious of the ancient world, reshaping the map and opening up opportunities for trade, cultural exchange, and scientific discovery. At the heart of Carthage's maritime exploration was their unmatched skill in shipbuilding and navigation. Their ships, designed for both speed and endurance, allowed them to venture far beyond the familiar waters of the Mediterranean. One of their most famous expeditions was led by the legendary navigator Hanno, who set sail with a fleet of ships to explore the western coast of Africa. His journey took him as far south as modern-day Sierra Leone, a feat that was unparalleled at the time. Along the way, Hanno and his crew documented their discoveries, including encounters with unfamiliar wildlife and indigenous peoples, providing some of the earliest written accounts of these regions. But Hanno's voyage was just one example of Carthage's exploratory spirit. another notable explorer, Himilco, ventured northward, sailing along the Atlantic coast of Europe. His journey took him to the British Isles and possibly even further, where he sought out valuable resources like tin and amber. These expeditions were not just about discovery, they were strategic missions aimed at securing new trade routes and resources that would strengthen Carthage's economy and military power. The Carthaginians' ability to navigate vast distances was made possible by their advanced understanding of the stars, winds, and currents. They used celestial navigation to guide their ships, relying on the positions of the sun, moon, and stars to chart their course. Coastal landmarks and detailed maps also played a crucial role, allowing them to navigate safely through unfamiliar waters. This combination of skill and knowledge made Carthage a leader in maritime exploration, setting a standard that others would strive to emulate. The impact of these voyages extended far beyond Carthage itself. By opening up new trade routes, the Carthaginians facilitated the exchange of goods, ideas, and cultures across the ancient world. Their discoveries also contributed to a growing body of geographical knowledge, which would later influence Greek and Roman cartographers. In many ways, Carthage's explorers were the pioneers of their time, pushing the boundaries of what was known and possible. As we reflect on Carthage's legacy of maritime exploration, it's clear that their achievements were driven by a combination of curiosity, ambition, and ingenuity. Their voyages not only expanded their own horizons but also laid the groundwork for future generations of explorers. And now, as we continue our journey through Carthage's forgotten practices, we'll turn our attention to another fascinating aspect of their culture, their use of fire in warfare. Stay with us as we uncover how this powerful element became a key weapon in Carthage's military arsenal. Now, let's turn our attention to one of Carthage's most fearsome and innovative military tactics, the use of fire in warfare. Fire, a primal and destructive force, became a key weapon in Carthage's arsenal, wielded with precision and strategy to devastating effect. The Carthaginians understood the psychological and physical impact of fire, using it not just to destroy but to intimidate, disrupt, and control their enemies. One of the most striking examples of Carthage's use of fire was their deployment of incendiary weapons. These weapons were designed to spread chaos and destruction on the battlefield. One such device was the fire ship, a vessel loaded with flammable materials and set ablaze before being sent directly into enemy fleets. The sight of a burning ship careening toward them often caused panic among opposing sailors, breaking their formations and creating opportunities for Carthaginian forces to strike. Fire ships were particularly effective in naval battles, where the confined spaces and wooden ships made the spread of flames almost unstoppable. On land, the Carthaginians employed controlled burns as a tactical tool. By setting fire to fields, forests, or even entire villages, they could deny resources to their enemies, forcing them into vulnerable positions. These controlled burns were not random acts of destruction, but carefully planned maneuvers aimed at weakening enemy supply lines and morale. In some cases, Carthaginian commanders used fire to create barriers, cutting off retreat routes or funneling enemy troops into traps where they could be easily defeated. Another ingenious use of fire was in siege warfare. Carthaginian engineers developed incendiary projectiles such as fire arrows and flaming catapult shots to breach enemy fortifications. These projectiles could ignite wooden gates, towers, and even the interiors of besieged cities, causing widespread damage and forcing defenders to divert their attention from the main assault. The psychological impact of seeing their defenses consumed by flames often led to swift surrenders, saving Carthage valuable time and resources. The Carthaginians also understood the importance of timing and precision when using fire. They trained their soldiers to use fire-based weapons effectively, ensuring that each strike had maximum impact. This level of discipline and coordination set Carthage apart from many of its contemporaries, who often used fire as a blunt instrument rather than a strategic tool. The legacy of Carthage's use of fire in warfare extends beyond their own time. Their innovative tactics influenced later military strategies, particularly in the Mediterranean world. The Romans, for example, adopted and adapted many of Carthage's incendiary techniques, using them to great effect in their own campaigns. Even today, the concept of using fire as both a physical and psychological weapon remains a powerful reminder of Carthage's ingenuity and resourcefulness. As we explore the next chapter of Carthage's forgotten practices, we'll delve into their monumental inscriptions, how they used writing to preserve their history, laws, and achievements. Stay with us as we uncover the stories etched in stone that continue to speak to us across the centuries. Shifting our focus from the fiery battlefields to the enduring legacy of Carthage, we now turn to their monumental inscriptions. These inscriptions, carved into stone and metal, served as a powerful tool for preserving the laws, treaties, and historical events that shaped Carthaginian society. Unlike the fleeting nature of fire, these inscriptions were designed to last, ensuring that the achievements and values of Carthage would be remembered for generations. The Carthaginians were meticulous record keepers, using inscriptions to document everything from legal codes to diplomatic agreements. One of the most famous examples is the Treaty of Lutatius, which marked the end of the First Punic War. This treaty, inscribed on bronze tablets, outlined the terms of peace between Carthage and Rome, providing a clear and permanent record of the agreement. Such inscriptions not only served as legal documents but also as symbols of Carthage's authority and commitment to order. In addition to treaties, monumental inscriptions were used to commemorate significant historical events. Victories in battle, the construction of grand public buildings, and the reigns of influential leaders were all immortalized in stone. These inscriptions often included detailed accounts of the events, offering future generations a glimpse into the triumphs and challenges of Carthaginian history. For example, inscriptions found in the ruins of Carthage describe the city's rebuilding efforts after its destruction by Rome, highlighting the resilience and determination of its people. The Carthaginians also used inscriptions to communicate their laws and societal values. These legal texts were displayed in public spaces, ensuring that all citizens had access to the rules governing their lives. This practice not only promoted transparency but also reinforced the idea that the law was a cornerstone of Carthaginian identity. By making these laws visible and permanent, the Carthaginians created a sense of continuity and stability within their society. The role of monumental inscriptions extended beyond mere record-keeping. They were also a form of propaganda designed to project Carthage's power and prestige to both its citizens and foreign visitors. Grand inscriptions on temples, monuments, and city gates served as reminders of Carthage's achievements and its place in the world. These public displays of history and law helped to unify the population and foster a shared sense of identity. The legacy of Carthaginian inscriptions is still felt today. Many of these ancient texts have survived, offering modern historians invaluable insights into Carthaginian culture, politics, and daily life. They remind us that while empires rise and fall, the written word has the power to endure, preserving the stories of those who came before us. As we prepare to explore the final chapter of Carthage's forgotten practices, we'll delve into their influence on Mediterranean philosophy, how their thinkers contributed to the intellectual currents of their time and beyond. Join us as we uncover the philosophical legacy of a civilization that continues to shape our understanding of the ancient world. Now, as we reach the final chapter of our journey through Carthage's forgotten practices, we turn our attention to their profound influence on Mediterranean philosophy. While Carthage is often remembered for its military might and maritime prowess, its intellectual contributions have been overshadowed by time. Yet, the ideas that emerged from Carthaginian thinkers played a significant role in shaping the philosophical landscape of the ancient world. Carthaginian philosophy was deeply rooted in practicality, reflecting the values of a society built on trade, governance, and resilience. Their thinkers often explored themes of ethics, governance, and the nature of human existence, blending local traditions with influences from neighboring cultures. One of the most notable aspects of Carthaginian thought was its emphasis on balance, whether in governance, personal conduct, or the relationship between humanity and the divine. This focus on harmony resonated with Greek and Roman philosophers, who later incorporated similar ideas into their own works. One of the key figures in Carthaginian philosophy was Hasdrubal the philosopher, a lesser-known but influential thinker whose works explored the concept of justice within a diverse and interconnected society. His writings emphasized the importance of fairness in trade and diplomacy, reflecting Carthage's role as a hub of commerce and cultural exchange. While much of his work has been lost to history, fragments of his ideas appear in later Greek texts, suggesting that his influence extended far beyond Carthage's borders. Carthaginian thinkers also contributed to debates on the nature of the soul and the afterlife, topics that were central to many ancient philosophical traditions. Their unique perspective, shaped by a blend of local religious practices and external influences, offered a fresh take on these timeless questions. For instance, Carthaginian philosophers often argued that the soul's journey after death was tied to one's actions in life, a concept that echoed in later Stoic and Neoplatonic thought. The exchange of ideas between Carthage and Greece was particularly significant. As Carthage expanded its trade networks, it became a meeting point for cultures, fostering intellectual dialogue. Greek philosophers such as Aristotle and later Roman thinkers like Cicero were known to reference Carthaginian ideas, even if indirectly. This cross-pollination of thought enriched the philosophical traditions of the Mediterranean, creating a shared intellectual heritage that transcended political and cultural boundaries. Perhaps the most enduring legacy of Carthaginian philosophy lies in its emphasis on adaptability and resilience. In a world marked by constant change and conflict, Carthaginian thinkers championed the idea of finding strength through flexibility, a principle that resonated deeply with both Greek and Roman audiences. This philosophy of resilience not only shaped the intellectual currents of the ancient world, but also left a lasting imprint on how we understand human perseverance today. As we conclude our exploration of Carthage's forgotten practices, it's clear that their contributions to philosophy were as transformative as their achievements in trade, warfare, and governance. From the balance of justice to the resilience of the human spirit, Carthaginian ideas continue to echo through the corridors of history, reminding us of the enduring power of thought. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the hidden legacy of Carthage. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more deep dives into the mysteries of history. Until next time, keep exploring. As we bring this journey through the forgotten practices of Carthage to a close, it's worth taking a moment to reflect on just how much this ancient civilization shaped the world we know today. From their groundbreaking shipbuilding techniques to their innovative trade networks, Carthage was a powerhouse of creativity and resilience. Their influence stretched far beyond their own borders, leaving a mark on everything from military strategy to philosophy, agriculture to urban planning. Each of these 50 practices reveals a society that was not only advanced for its time, but also deeply interconnected with the broader Mediterranean world. What's truly remarkable is how many of these practices continue to resonate in our modern lives. Carthage's emphasis on balance, adaptability, and innovation offers timeless lessons for navigating challenges and building thriving communities. Whether it's their pioneering use of war elephants, their sophisticated legal systems, or their contributions to philosophical thought, Carthage's legacy reminds us that history is not just a record of the past, it's a living, breathing influence on the present. So, as we wrap up, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Which of these Carthaginian practices surprised you the most? Are there any that you see reflected in today's world? Let's keep the conversation going in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into the mysteries of Carthage, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss an exploration into the hidden corners of history. Thanks for joining me on this journey, and until next time, keep uncovering the stories that shape our world.